Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order regular City Council meeting for Monday, May 20th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members who have given their lives for our country. If everyone please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Smith, if you'd take roll call, please.
Mayor Jacobs.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
Present.
Councilmember Karafotis.
Here.
Councilmember Squires.
Here.
Councilmember Earl.
Here.
Councilmember Witt. Here. Councilmember Lynch. Here. You have a quorum of 7.
Thank you. Next is item 4, approval of the agenda.
Mayor.
Councilmember Witt.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the Monday, May 20th, 2024 council meeting agenda as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Does he have to amend that since we took off item B on the consent or on the agenda?
If our recognition recipient isn't here, we can just, he's
Just skip
unable
it?
to make it, yeah.
Okay. Comments from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Okay, item 5 is some recognitions. Item A is swearing in of Nicholas Wallace. I would call Chief Tim Gibbons up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As a person who was born at Garden City Hospital and raised in Garden City, it's nice as chief once in a while when you get to swear in an officer who was also born in Garden City and raised in Garden City. It's even better when it's the swearing in of the son of one of our retired lieutenants who I work for and loved working for. So it's with great pleasure tonight, Nicholas Wallace will be sworn in as the Garden City's newest police officer. His father was Tom Wallace, who retired in 2009, was a great lieutenant to work for, a great sergeant to work for, and just a great person to work with. So when Nick came to us, he initially actually started with us in the ordinance department. Born and raised here, worked in the ordinance department, went off to Ferris State, got his bachelor's in criminal justice, and where did he want to come back to? All roads lead to Garden City. He came back, and he's going to be our newest officer. It's fantastic to have legacies in our department. It helps us carry on that generational culture that we're so proud of. So with Nick's hire, we get to do that, and I get to be part of him getting sworn in. And Nick, come on up. His father, after the swearing in, will be pinning on his badge, so very fitting. And if the clerk may. Nick, we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me.
duly appointed
as a fully empowered police officer,
as a fully empowered police officer,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
that I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Michigan,
the laws and ordinances of the City of Garden City,
the laws and ordinances of the City of Garden City,
and will uphold and abide by
and will uphold and abide by
the rules and regulations,
the rules and regulations,
as well as all other orders,
as well as all other orders,
be they general, special, or otherwise,
be they special, general, or otherwise,
of the Garden City Police Department,
of the Garden City Police Department
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
that I will not at any time
that I will not at any time
lend, aid, advise, or succor
lend, aid, advise, or succor
to any organization
to any organization
known or suspected of having subversive tendencies,
known or suspected of having subversive tendencies,
nor will I in any way
nor will I in any way
affiliate myself with such organizations.
affiliate myself with such organizations.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Just one tonight.
Okay, next we have recognition of our city manager, Mr. Doc Doherty. So before I read the plaque, a couple things I would like to say. I've known Doc since he came in here. I was part of the council that hired Mr. Doherty. And I got to say, he is the best city manager that I've seen around here. Unfortunately, some people don't see that, and that's too bad. Hopefully, in the future, we'll realize all the good things that Mr. Doherty has done. He's been tremendous. His ideas, his suggestions, his work ethic have been second to none. So, those of you that know, he is moving on, so today will be his last meeting. So, City Manager Doc Doherty. Whereas Dale Doc Doherty was appointed as City Manager on March 1st, 2018, and provided dedicated service to the City of Garden City as the longest-serving city manager in the city's history. And throughout his Garden City tenure, Doc worked successfully with the mayor and city council members with unwavering dedication and commitment to public service and the promotion of the profession of city management throughout his career in local government. And Doc personally composed the request and brought more than $7.5 million in county, state, and federal grants to Garden City, saved the city $200,000 a year in changes to the health care program, and saved millions of dollars in road construction money by making positive changes to the prevailing wage ordinance. And Doc created programs and activities for Garden City, including the annual Easter egg hunt, the October egg hunt, the Santa ride around the city, the Santa mailbox, the holiday lighting competition, your favorite, the Purple Bag Challenge for litter cleanup, the 4x4 neighborhood maintenance program, and Garden City University, known as GCU. Doc created and composed the Buzz newsletter, mailed with every resident's water bill bi-monthly. The Golden Book of City Rules, the city's strategic plan and sustainability plan, city council plaques and resolutions, and made over 100 pages of changes to the city ordinances. Doc successfully managed the passage of two $15 million road bonds and oversaw the construction of over 25 miles of city roads and reorganized the budget to purchase over $3 million of new vehicles and equipment. And Doc personally designed the newly expanded fire station, the rehabilitation of the Radcliffe Community Center, the restoration of City Hall, and Doc and his family would annually decorate City Hall for Christmas over Thanksgiving weekend. Doc created employee luncheons with department versus department games, encouraged employee education, always had time to mentor staff, and rewrote all the city's collective bargaining union contracts to be more agreeable to the city and the employees. Doc accomplished all of these things while leaving the city in the best financial shape it has ever been in. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of Garden City, Michigan does hereby express its appreciation to Dale Doc Doherty for his many years of dedicated service and leadership to our city and the community as a whole, as our city manager. Thank you, Mr. Doherty. I believe our state rep, Dylan Wagella, has something.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Doc. I just wanted to come by. I want to say, you know, first and foremost, not everyone gets to see the relationship that I think like electeds, especially in Lansing, have with city managers. And I have 4 cities, and I'll tell you, and I think, you know, Doc knows this, we don't always agree on everything. I've came to council and I've challenged some of the things that are happening, et cetera. But I really respect that when I called you, you would call me back within 15 minutes, almost every single time. And I think there's something to be said about that responsiveness, because whenever I called and asked for, you know, a proposal to bring to the state for state funding, I got that with the more details than a lot of communities I represent. I just want to wish you the best in your journey, and I want to thank you for being the longest serving city manager. And I also recognize, you know, even in my role, none of us bat 1,000% all the time, and sometimes we have these expectations on elected officials, on people in positions like yours to be perfect, and none of us are. But I just truly respect the relationship we've been able to build even when we don't always agree. So thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This is my time. I get to talk. So I asked the mayor how long I could speak for. He said you could speak for as long as you want, but we're leaving at 8 o'clock. Just so I recognize my wife over here, my beautiful wife. She's been on the journey with us almost 30 years around the country, 6 years here in Michigan, a little more than that. And this job is a 24/7 job. So we've got 5 great children, and she really did all the raising while I was at City Hall, taking late night calls and other things. But one of the things I want to point out, elected officials, as Representative Wagalla just said, I've never seen it as much as what we have here. from the state representative and getting us funding. With Senator Palenque, same situation with Commissioner Kniezek at Wayne County, and of course Rashida Tlaib in getting us federal funds. I've never been in a community where the elected officials are so engaged and so involved, and the staff knows them, by name and certainly even their cell numbers to get things done. So that's a big tribute to, I think, just Michigan and the Midwest and the values of what you have here and the dedication of the elected officials at the state level and federal level. Behind me, there's a council that's been super supportive. I looked today, since I started in 2018, we've had 1,199 votes, almost 1,200 votes, and there were 33, exactly 33, that there was one negative vote, meaning it passed 6-1 or passed 5-2. Very rare was there an actual negative no vote, which shows the dedication and interest of the commission and council as far as being prepared. I talk about that at GCU. Somebody asked why we have a lot of 7-0 votes. It's because a lot of things are discussed during the budget process, or myself individually with the council, and then of course they're prepared coming into the meetings. So when you look at that and say that's a group working together for the last number of years, getting things done, and when you see these communities that have a lot of 4-3, 3-4 back and forth, there's not a whole lot getting done. So I appreciate the council before me and behind me, and the council that was here earlier. Mayor Walker over here, the longest serving mayor, appreciate his support. Behind me, just a couple of people I want to point out. Jaylee Lynch is the longest serving councilwoman in the history of the city. So we got all kinds of fun first. Big groups. She was the first one to call me when I was down in Florida about this opportunity. She's been a huge supporter of mine, and she also gives me advice on a regular basis. I don't always take it to my detriment. She's usually correct in the end, but she's been wonderful for me. Also, you have Councilman Earl, who big with the youth programs and leagues. He is my one Notre Dame friend in the whole state. I believe at this point we have a sign in my office that you would slap on the way in, play like a champion. So thank him for supporting me. Also, what he's doing with the youth program, the theater program, is fantastic when the elected officials get involved in the community. So I really love to see him growing in that area of helping with the high school and the theater program itself. I want to mention a couple of employees, if I could, really quick also. I love finding diamonds in the rough. Your HR director, we have Lauren Minch, is moved over from water billing, and she's going to be here long term. She's got a lot of years to succeed here, and right from the start, she's hit the ground running. She's like a veteran in HR, so I appreciate her support. Mike Downey with Parks and Recreation, he's been fantastic for the community. He came to us as a volunteer, I believe, and then started working part-time for 15 years. I hired him as full-time, and he is full-time. My wife and I would go to breakfast after church on Sunday, stop by the Radcliffe Center, and this shadowy figure will be walking down the hallway in the darkness, and it's Mike Downey just checking things out. And he loves this community, loves the city. And we've got someone in the back here, Furby, the man with the camera. Zach King, apparently we found out that he doesn't like the name Furby. That's a problem. So Furby's the triple threat with us. He's doing broadcasting. He's also our social media guru for everything we do. And he is also a fix-it person when it comes to the servers and computer systems and things. So he's been fantastic. Brian, over here, Brian Smith, our new clerk, he started about 1 minute before me, but I was glad to be able to put him to deputy clerk position in hopes that he could succeed Matt Miller, and he's done a great job. If you need something found, anyone that puts a FOIA request in, if it exists, he will find it. He's a snoop that can find things in a very short time. Brad Oman is really the longest serving for anything. I know it's mocked that I'm here just over 6 years and being recognized longest serving. Brad Oman started in 1985, and he wasn't able to make it here this evening. So next year he will be at 40 years serving, and if he stays another 9 months after that, he'll be the longest serving employee in the history of the city. And Brad is the same thing. He's a problem solver. When things come up, Brad is the person to go. In minutes, he'll call me back, say, I talked to the resident, we're all settled, everything's taken care of. And Brad is like a machine where you don't need blueprints because Brad knows where everything is in the city. And it's mainly because he put it there himself. So there's really nothing to look at. Matt Miller over here also. Jaylee Lynch, in one of her advice pieces to me was, I had a question when I first got here, literally the first month or two. She said, call Matt Miller. He's the clerk, planning zoning guy down in Wayne, city of Wayne. So I called him up, to know later that he had 7 employees at one point and went down to 2 with the crash, yet he still took his time to help me out. The customer service was tremendous. So the fact that he applied for the job to come here, I was ecstatic about it. It was almost a done deal immediately to say I experienced his work when I was a stranger, and to bring him in was great, and to have him leave and come back now as economic development and now assisting, filling in as interim, manager is outstanding. Brian Marciniak in the corner. Brian interviewed, and Matt Miller, actually, when they worked together at Wayne at one point, and Brian interviewed with us, and it was a very straight, regular interview, and it ended with Brian saying, I'm very funny. And I laughed out loud because he wasn't funny at all. And then I realized, I was like, oh dear God, he's serious. And he is actually extremely funny. He is, just not during interviews. He's not funny. But you need somebody like a finance, as a city manager, as I talk at GCU, the most important thing is the budget. Where we are, second is liability. And you need a really strong finance person. He's well experienced, educated, has been in the private sector, public sector. Brian has been a fantastic addition to the team and for the city itself. He goes out of his way to make sure everything's straight, and he is a solid cat. He doesn't do much for our basketball team, but I'd take him in a moment as a finance person anywhere, and who knows, maybe I will. Tim Gibbons, of course, Tim is an old soul. Anyone that knows Tim, it's like you've known him forever. I know a lot of useless information for movies and television and history, and he's 10 years younger than me, and he knows everything about it also. Tim is a super guy. He's also, most people don't know, attorney by trade. So he's beyond just being a chief. He's much more advanced, and the advice also I've gotten from him, I've called my personal consigliere because of what he's done for me over the years and my actions here in the city, and looking at things upside down and backwards. So I appreciate Tim. That's Alfred Hitchcock. That's the birds are banging on the window. And then I know between 5 and 5:45. So where did Marge just leave? Marge walked out. So Marge Hickman, I got to mention her also. She was there during my interview, and has been by my side pretty much for 6 years. She said she won't be here for my ceremony a little bit here, leaving, and because she said she's an ugly crier. And I said, you will be there, and don't make the joke so easy for me by making that statement. But she is. Everyone should have a Marge with you. She'll do anything for the city. Loves the city. Grew up here, raised her kids here. Is now raising her grandkids here. For those that did take Garden City University through all the semesters, Marge was there to take care of everything for everybody. So she right now, I believe, has a triple doctorate from Garden City University, the only one. But she, morning, nights, whatever you need, she's there. But one final person I just want to mention is Mayor Jacobs. So Mayor Mark Jacobs has to be, of all the elected officials I worked with, the most impatient person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, I like to have things done yesterday. He wants them done last month. And he kills GFL and DTE. And I'm glad to have him make the call. Somebody has an issue at your house, he's willing to jump on it and take care of it. Even the roof, it's taken a little while for the fire station. The company sent the wrong roof color. So, and then the winter hit, so things were really slowed down. And at one point, the mayor just came in last week, and he said, it's 3:30, where are the guys? I said, Mayor, it's okay. In their defense, they did get here at 11 o'clock. And then he gets even more excited, and explosive. But the roof at one point, he called me in the morning, he's in the office, and he says, where are you? I said, at the fire station looking at construction. He says, while you're over there, bring one of those roof trusses. He goes, they're not using them over there anyway, just bring it here to City Hall, because his patience is limited. But that's great, because he's a great a leader for this community. As the mayor, he's fights for you every day. There's no question. He's been supportive of myself, of the staff, and he's really representing everyone very well. So I appreciate Mayor and everyone else, and sorry if I missed anybody. But I thank you very much, for this. We'll always remember Michigan And I win 10 cents from my son if I end the speech by saying, "Go Irish." So thank you. There's my time.
With that, we're going to take a short recess. I know some of the police officers have to leave, so we'll take a short break. Okay, this meeting is back in session. Item 6 is comments from state and county officials, and State Representative Wagella had to go to another meeting, and I don't see anybody else. So we have no presentations, no community events. One communication, I was involved in a Zoom meeting with Wayne County regarding the Merriman Road Bridge. And it went just about that way. But they at least included me this time, and I kind of expressed that a lot of our residents, and it affects a lot of our residents, even if it's not in Garden City. So they're going to try and include me in any future meetings. But what they've basically said was, when they've got the bridge over Rouge done, it's the one over the river that's they're having an issue with. And there's a sanitary sewer, 16-inch water main, and some utilities that were under there that they did not know about. For whatever reason, they weren't marked by the county or anybody else that was ever involved in it. So that is what they hit. So what they are doing now is they're slowly putting in the bridge forms, the moorings, and they have to do it in a kind of a time-delayed fashion because of vibration that will affect the Rouge Bridge that is now done. So they have to pour them, let them set for X amount of time, and then they can move forward. Having said that, they are anticipating by November. I know it's not the news I wanted to hear, or Westland or Livonia that it also affects, but that is what they're doing. They're hoping maybe possibly a little bit earlier, but they're thinking right around November. So that is the update that I got from them. And again, as further updates come along, I will pass them on. Item 10 is public hearings. And the first one is our City Ethics Board ordinance. And we have our city attorney, Mr. Bennett, if you'd like to speak on anything.
Yeah, I can talk about the changes that we made to the ordinance with respect to the membership. That was changed from 5 to 7 members. Also, there were eligibility criteria set forth for members of the Board of Ethics. The criteria that was suggested by the council and that have been implemented into the ordinance are that the person has not been convicted of a felony, that the person is a resident of the city of Garden City, that the person is at least 21 years of age, and that the person is not the spouse of, romantically involved with, or a third-degree relative of a current member of City Council. Other changes to the original draft of this ordinance include appointment of a special counsel to do investigations. Obviously, I cannot do investigations on this as it would be a conflict of interest for me. There's criteria for members of the Board of Ethics to recuse themselves. Basically, what I did on this was I took the criteria that apply to judges in the state of Michigan with respect to their eligibility to hear cases. They involve largely family members, or whether or not a person has a direct interest in the issue at hand. Those persons would have to recuse themselves if those criteria existed. The other changes involve the creation of an executive committee that would be comprised of the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. This means that this committee would not be a quorum of the Board of Ethics, and the reason for this is that it would not go afoul of the Open Meetings Act if the executive committee met not in public to determine whether or not a particular issue that's been forwarded to the Ethics Board would in fact go in front of the board. For example, the Executive Committee would be like the pre-screening to filter out what might be meritless claims made and what might merit a further investigation. So they're the initial screening agency. Other changes include to the extent possible, without violating the Michigan Freedom of Information Act, confidentiality of all matters submitted to and investigated by the Board of Ethics. Again, there's Freedom of Information Act issues here. The ordinance is not going to run afoul of the Freedom of Information Act. That is explicit in the ordinance itself. I don't want to put anybody in a position to violate state law. And upon statement of those changes to the original version of the ordinance, I stand ready to answer any questions that the council has.
I think we'll have the public hearing, and then when it comes under our action items, council can ask questions.
Sure.
Mayor, the public hearing is for the public to come up and ask questions, correct?
Correct.
Maybe our attorney can just explain to everybody a little bit about exactly what it is and what it does. I don't think we've discussed it a lot.
Sure.
Okay, this ethics ordinance will basically provide guidelines for all city officials. City officials is defined by the ordinance. Give me a minute, please. A city official is a person elected or appointed serving in any capacity with the City of Garden City. However, it excludes contracted or non-contracted employees, but does include other officials of the city, whether or not they receive compensation. So basically, it sets forth guidelines for ethical conduct for all city officials. Further, if there is a ostensible or apparent violation by a city official that's brought to the attention of the executive committee can screen the complaint and determine whether or not this merits a further investigation. If it does merit a further investigation, then the case would be investigated by the entire Board of Ethics, and then they would make a recommendation to the City Council based on their investigation. And if there is an investigation, again, that's going to involve a conflict of interest, to give an example of that, if there was a complaint against one member of the council who is my client, I am not going to investigate my own client for violations. That's a conflict of interest for me. There would be a provision for a special counsel to be brought in under those circumstances. Basically a guideline to keep everybody on the straight and narrow and to give everybody guidelines as to what ethical conduct is.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will open up the public hearing. You'll have 3 minutes to make a comment.
Hi, Linda Skoroff. Question is, in the name of transparency, who exactly is on the Board of Ethics? Are we allowed to know that?
You will when we appoint. It'll come before
So
council.
you don't have one yet?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, do you want to tell them how they're picked?
It's just like any other board or commission. The mayor will appoint, and the council, rest of the council will confirm.
Will it be city employees that are on that council, or citizens also?
It should be just citizens. Can't be anyone. It can't be a city employee. Comments? Further comments? Further comments? Okay, with that, I will close that public hearing. Item B is our 2024 public hearing on our 24-25 general appropriations and tax levy. Mr. Marciniak, if you'd like to discuss that, explain that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. May 3rd, I issued through City Manager Doherty a proposed budget, and it has remained relatively unchanged. The city is still requesting the same amount of millage, which is 22.675 mils, and we have not changed anywhere in the appropriations since that time.
Okay. Okay, public comments. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Had a quick question for you about the budget. Under Capital Improvement Projects Fund Summary, for the fire station, it shows $600,000. I spoke to Senator Paul Honke last week. She said we got $800,000. Do we know where that money is and why it's not on there? Sure.
That is the amount that we expect to use to finish off the project in next fiscal year. So we've already spent a portion of some of the monies we were allotted in the previous year, plus a portion of the already amount of the $800,000 that Senator Paul Hanke had acquired for us. So it's just the portion that will be remaining to finish the fire station.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Further comments?
Good evening. I have a lot of questions because we're $3 million short in the budget. On May 4th of '20, council approved a 1.5 mil increase on the operating millage. And the former city manager said that or the current one, I'm not sure what's going on here, but he said that it could easily be decreased, and I know I'm repeating myself, but no one seems to respond to this, so I'll just keep talking about it. He said it could easily be decreased if you didn't need it. Well, it was approved based on speculation that the state revenue sharing would be lower. The state revenue sharing has not been lower. And I see in the letter that accompanied this current budget is, he wrote that a 1.5 increase in our portion of state revenue sharing is expected for fiscal year 24-25. So it's still not decreased. The 1.5 for the 4 years you've collected it brought in $4,200,000. So that was like an extra little push to the budget, and we're still $3 million short now. Do we have a spending problem in this town? I mean, where's the money going? How are we $3 million short? You got a whole extra $4,200,000, and it's still in the budget, so it's going to go forward for another year. Do you guys understand any of this? Because I just see blank faces. Do you understand what you voted on and what you approved and what you're doing to the public? I mean, we have a non-functioning government here. There's no discussion, there's yes approvals for everything, and you just sit there. We bring up the same stuff all the time, and you just sit there with blank looks on your face. This is disgusting.
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Further comments? Okay, no further comments, I'll close.
Mike Farron, 29155 Barton, and owner of Podium Skates on Ford Road at Helen. Up until 2008, 2009, Garden City was able to fund their responsibilities from the general fund. There weren't extra millages for police and fire. There wasn't extra appropriations or levies for lighting. There weren't all these extra things that you keep asking the residents to vote on. And when they expire and they come up for renewal, you always say, It's not an increase in your taxes, it's just a renewal. Well, folks, if something's supposed to expire, it is an increase in your taxes because it was supposed to go away. The residents have been extremely generous to the government of Garden City to bail them out when it was needed, but it's time for the city to accept their responsibility of budgeting and remove these extra charges that you pile on the residents over and over again. They were supposed to be temporary. You said they were going to be temporary, but not one of them has disappeared. Do your jobs, folks.
Thank you. Further comments?
Mayor, could our finance director come up and explain where that money goes from the 1.1 mils? Right, the increase. But it's 1.1 mil that we pay. Almost 5, actually. Opal was referring to the 1.1.
1.5.
1.5, I'm sorry. And so that's, we asked this question a couple weeks ago, and we were told it's about $1 million a year.
Yep, just over $1 million.
So it's been in effect for almost 5 years, so it's almost $5 million. What do we do with that money? Where does it go?
It supplements the general fund and any general cost within the fund. So it's nothing, it's not specifically earmarked for anything in specifics such as the police and fire millage.
But when we started that, we said that this was just in case the funds that we get from the state go down, and they didn't go down. So we're just using that money anyway, right?
We're using it throughout the general fund, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further comments from the public?
We are talking budget and fiscal responsibilities, correct? What are we going to do about this unfunded liability in the pension funds? There is a laws that states when you're below 60% funding, you are critical care and you're supposed to take actions. We've been bouncing around in this environment for 3 years. We have not done anything to do or to correct it. I'm concerned about what happens if we financially get in trouble. These pensions will get reduced by 50%. We have to do something morally and ethically about the pensions. The health and welfare, $3 million is just like they said, you got to give me $3 million. Why? Explain it to me where these people come up with the money. With your active plans, you're supposed to have a line item where you're feeding in resources for a retiree's health plan. Where is our problems with the management of these two funds? Do we blame it on the mayor? What about Jay Lee? You both been a mayor, a council person, and administrator of a facility that had retirement funds. How did you guys police that? Who takes care of this? The issue with MERS, Stacy, I fought the international trying to come into Local 80. And all the conversations, everything I heard was, why do you want to take your benefit and have an outside source administrate it when they don't even know what's going on? In Mr. Doherty's report, we had people receiving benefits that weren't even qualified. So who is the administrator of these funds? I think you need to get an answer to that. And personally, I would not even pass a budget until you find those answers, because it's what, about $200 million we're in the hole? You have, after all the stuff you're asking for in November's, $35 million. You have 60 in pension and 161 of the insurance. What are we going to do about that? I want answers for these people that are serving us, making our life comfortable. They are entitled to these benefits. What are you going to do, Mr. Jacobs, Jay Lee, Mr. Earl? We had a conversation pertaining to your benefits with the Wayne County. I don't know how they finance it on a 2% thing. It doesn't make sense. I didn't get back with you because I can't find an answer. Did you inquire with the administration or the actuarian on the solvency of the Wayne County sheriffs? And the real question now is, aren't they talking about taking the sheriffs out of the court? That'll be less
15
people
seconds.
contributing into the fund. So somebody's got to find and corral this, because we are entitled to these benefits because we paid into them. So please do something.
Thank you. Further comments? Further comments from the public? Okay, no further comments. I'll close that public hearing. Item C is 2425 water and sewage rates. Mr. Marciniak.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. This is for the public hearing for the water and sewer rates. There's a few parts to this. First part would be the variable charges, or the charges based on the consumptions of the water, and the sewer is based off of the consumption of your water. Right now, we're going to do the 3.5% pass-through that we will be receiving from GLWA for that, for the water portion. The last couple years, Rouge Valley and Wayne County has held steady with their rate. There will be no change at this time to the sewer rate. Typically in the past, sometimes we usually get a mid-year notice of that. If that's the case, we will adjust it if necessary in the middle of the year, usually about January. If you recall, a couple years ago, we did lower that rate by about 5% because there was some savings to pass on to the consumers. The other portion of our charges are what we call the fixed or the daily charges. Those are the ready-to-serve charges. Those are the costs that the city passes on to the consumers for the consumers to have the ability to use the water and the sewer charges. Recently, just along, unfortunately, as we've seen most of this evening, costs have gone up considerably over the past few years. The city has tried hard to maintain a flat 3.5% level over the last couple of years. This year we will be having a large increase in some healthcare costs. We're also having some additional retirement costs, and also we've had some wage increases in order to keep up. So unfortunately this year we'll be passing on a 10% increase. It does sound a little bit stiff, but I just want to also reiterate that even at a 10% increase right now, it still costs less than 50 cents a day to have the ability to use the water and use the sewer system throughout the city. So it's still a relatively good deal to have those utilities at your disposal. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Okay, I'll open up the public hearing on the water and sewer rates. Anybody wishing to speak?
John Murray. My question right now is geared more to that fixed rate. From my understanding is we have a $5 million federal bond coming that we're going to utilize it. Is part of that fixed rate going to offset the cost of that? Do we even know the cost of it? And why are you getting such a high increase if you can't justify it? So can someone tell me why you're bouncing it up 10%? The other question I have is we've done a lot of lead replacement. Brad and Steve have spent weekends going through little tabs to find out how many unleaded services we have. How many of them have we done? How many more has to be done? And Mr. Gibbons, I believe, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years, at a budget thing, was trying to put a list of all the rental properties. Has he put that together so we can get contact with these people? Because we have to replace it. It's cheaper to do it today than 5 years from now. I complimented you guys for making the proactive move on that. Now we have to close it out. What is your closeout plan for that? And on the sewage, I'm going to use the word flooding, because I live in Area 11, And there are 3 areas after the big flood at Elmwood, in Deering, they had to put a crossover, Helen and Maplewood, they had to do it, and then a year before on Harrison, crossing over to Dawson. There's 3 items in Area 11. There's 12 areas, right? So if we had 3 areas in that, does that mean there's 33 other areas where there's improper sanitary lines? What are we going to do to fix it? And what are we going to do with the county? They're letting GFL pump water on the west of 275. And if you look at the charts, we're all downstream. All that water's coming. Every time there's going to be a decent rain, we're going to get flooded out. They have to expand the sewer lines and the stormwater lines. You also have an issue with the school. When they redo a parking lot, they have to put a retaining system in there. And recently, at the smoke shop at Ford and Garden, and then at the PPG construction, they have now put a brand-new paved drive or whatever, but there is no drainage off of that. What are we going to do about that? How is it the state's beating up our city, our school system, but yet as a city, we're not making sure the facilities are properly drained? So we obviously have a problem somewhere in the system. I'm not going to point fingers because the fingers are pointed right there. You guys are supposed to do something.
15
When are you going to
seconds.
do something?
Thank you. Further comments from the public? Any more comments from the public? Okay, no further comments. I'll close that public hearing. Item 11 is the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A1 through 4 as presented.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Karafotis. Further discussion from the table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, action items. Item 1 is the City Ethics Board Ordinance.
Mayor,
Councilmember Earl.
I move to approve the attached ordinance adopting sections 33.300-33.355 of the City of Garden City Code of Ordinances established by a city board of ethics.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Further comments from the table?
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
on page 3, under membership, where it talks about the credentials for members of the Board of Ethics, are they going to be required to sign a confidentiality agreement?
Mr. Bennett? I know it's not in there.
That is not a requirement. It is part of the ordinance, however.
Okay. And then moving down, it also says that under D, 3 members of the Board of Ethics shall constitute a quorum. Since that was changed from 5 to 7, shouldn't it be 4 members?
Yes.
Okay. I think that was all I had. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Further comments from the table? From the general public?
We had a public meeting on it.
Mr. Mayor, I would like you to tell us, the residents of Garden City, what your criteria is going to be for your appointments to this body.
It's not a question to answer. I can answer.
I think the residents should know.
Sure.
What you plan to do as far as qualifications, and are your friends going to be on this? Your supporters going to be on this? What about the folks that don't necessarily get along with you too well, but are residents in good standing in this city? We'd like to know what you plan to do with your appointments.
Okay, thank you. I was going to answer it at the end, but that's fine. I can do that now. Same as any other board or commission member. I will, if they fill out a form, I will look at the form. I will have a discussion with them, whether they're my friends, not my friends, don't like me or like me. It doesn't really matter. So long as they're fair, what I consider honest, fill all the other requirements, and then it'll come before council for their approval. So it's not me just appointing them. They're appointing, I'm choosing people to come forward, and then the council will vote for them. That's how I'm choosing them. Thank you. Further comments?
I have to admit, I didn't read anything on the ethics because I think this is just a joke. I've been harassed in this city. Our store's been harassed in this city. We were personally harassed after a council meeting here when we weren't even engaged with a person. And nothing came of it. I sent emails. Nothing came of it. Not a word. Okay? So what is this going to do here? I sat on a commission for the elected officials, and I sat on the commission with 2 people I reported for water theft. So what kind of ethics are we talking about here?
Thank you. Further comments? Okay. All in favor?
Mayor, I need to amend my motion under 33.310D to 4 members of the Board of Ethics.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Squires, you agree?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
to Mr. Farron, Mr. Bennett did list the requirements, but I'll say them. So 1 is has not been convicted of a felony. 2 is a resident of the city of Garden City. 3 is at least 21 years of age. And then number 4 is not the spouse of, romantically involved with, or a third-degree relative, great-grandparent, grandparent, parent, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, child, grandchild, great-grandchild, nephew, or niece of a current member of the city council.
But it's still the mayor making the appointments.
Okay, item 2 is fiscal year 24-25 general appropriations and tax levy. On this, if we don't approve it, it will go to a month-per-month payment per our 23-24 budget. Okay. Is there a motion for,
Oh, I'm sorry, you have to wait for the motion for discussion.
what's that?
You have to wait for the motion, then discussion.
Mr. Mayor, just as a clarification, so the budget itself, which is our appropriations, that section, according to the charter, we have to approve a budget by May 20th, which is today. If we fail to do so, then we would convert to a month-to-month appropriation, which would go back to our appropriations from the 23-24 budget. At the beginning of the ordinance, so section 1, you can still pull that out and make those recommendations to go forward with millage rates in case you want to do so and pull apart the ordinance, so that we have an ability to, we have to start to produce at some point. The reason why the May 20th date is set in place is so that we can start on the tax bills for the taxation for summer taxes.
Okay. What is council's wish?
Mayor, I'll make a motion for discussion purposes. I move to adopt the fiscal year 2024-25 general appropriations and tax levy ordinance.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Witt. Okay, further discussion from table.
Mayor?
Councilmember Karafotis.
One of the things that I wanted to ask, and I'm sure our finance director can talk about it, is in the budget is all the increases for hospitalization and healthcare, and I thought that we don't have those totals yet because more bids are coming in June. Correct. So again, we're just guessing with numbers. I mean, we're waiting for those numbers to come in still, correct?
Yes, that is correct at this time. Obviously, what's in there right now shows a deficit. We were advised by our agent to include a 30% increase, and with our current plan as we have, through the census information that they had for like 3/4 of our current year, the Blue Cross Blue Shield was waiting until they were going to get deep into June in order to formulate an amount. Our period begins August 1st to July 31st for insurance purposes. So that's kind of why we have a bit of a delay that doesn't match up with our fiscal year in order to know new rates. So under the advisement of our assured agent, he said to include a 30% increase for the current year, and that's what I included in the budget.
But that was for Blue Cross. Previously, it was said that we're getting shopped around. We're also looking for quotes from other insurance companies besides
Correct.
Blue Cross?
So, right, so like I said, so at that point in time, yes, if we're able to possibly do something different, at that point in time, we, obviously we could amend the budget for the healthcare portion that's in the budget and decrease the deficit.
Okay, I have more questions, so you just might as well stay up there.
Okay, I'll do my best.
I know that we talked about, we had a 40 or 42% fund balance, is that correct?
Something like that.
Okay, what's that actual number when we say that? 42% of what? Like, what's the amount?
So it's typically of the amount of excess revenues from prior years, so basically the leftovers, versus the amount of the expenses that we currently use every year.
But what's that number, is my question.
Like-
Is it $5 million, is it $10 million, or $1 million?
So total, which sometimes some of those numbers are restricted, but in the report, just if you give me just a moment, I'll look.
It was hard to find, I apologize.
That's fine. There is a few numbers in this report, I do admit. So right now, we project to have a ending with some, like I said, mind you, some of those amounts are restricted of about $11.5 million.
Okay. So one thing that we talked about previously at other meetings was about the street lighting and how our residents pay a portion of that street light bill for around $350,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's a special assessment, right?
Correct.
Okay. So our section 8.01 of our charter says that the city council shall have the power to determine the necessity of any local or public improvement with or without petition to determine the whole or any part of the expense shall be defrayed by a special assessment upon the property especially benefited, provided that all special assessments levied shall be in proportion to the benefits derived from the improvement. There is no improvement with this. We just talked about this. It was set forth telling everybody it was an improvement, that we were going to get lighting. And then a couple meetings ago when we talked about it, our city manager said, no, that's not how it was meant. It was just meant to pay the light bill. Well, you can't have an assessment to pay the light bill. A special assessment says that it has to be an improvement for our residents. It says right in section 8.01. So how are we still doing that? We talked about, I think Councilman Earl brought up, why is our city having our citizens pay for the light bill? As a municipality, we should be paying for those kind of things. I just think that we're not getting any improvements. We're not getting any LED lights. Some of our streets still don't even have street lights. So there are no benefits to our citizens other than they're paying their own light bill when our city should be paying for it. So I don't understand why we can't say we're going to discontinue this light bill after 12 years of them paying into it and not getting what we told them they were going to get. We have $11 million. We can't take out $350,000 off of our budget for that? I mean, the residents have been asking for it, and we've been talking about it and doing nothing. So we said we were going to talk about this at the budget meeting, and now here we are.
Okay.
So does anybody else have anything to say about it?
The only thing I see is if you take off the $350,000, the city's going to pay for it. And yes, we have $11 million, but that's $350,000 every year.
That's what the residents have been paying for 12 years. You're right about that.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, isn't it that the duty of the municipality to pay for things that our residents, I mean, we pay for the lighting. That's what we're supposed to pay for. We're already paying for the garbage and the water and everything else. I mean, that, up until that point, till we got the special assessment, which we're not even supposed to do because it's not for an improvement of any kind. It's just paying for the light bill. So again, we're not doing what our charter's telling us to do. And at some point, we have to start doing what we set forth the guidelines for. And if it's $11.5 million, and we've talked about it over and over, that we're in good shape, we have this fund balance, we're in good shape. When are we gonna give back what we said we're gonna give back? So that would be something that I would wanna talk about and possibly put that in our budget, that we use some of that money from the fund balance. Anybody else have any opinion at all?
Well, you know where I'm at on it.
Right, you agreed with me.
You know, I
You
agree
voted
with you
no.
also.
I was the lone voice trying to stop it, but, you know, like I said then and I say now, we collect taxes, we pay the bills. You know, that's the one thing that the reason I was opposed to it, and I'm still opposed to it. So my question would be, if we were to take it out, which I don't know that we would, or that it would happen, we just do a special vote for it, or do we include it in the budget talks?
Well, first of all, I believe in, either Matt or Brian can correct me if I'm wrong. That was passed last year as a 5-year special assessment. So I believe you're gonna have to go back and unwind some of that.
Yeah, I asked about it when we passed it.
Yeah.
You specifically told me that we could go back.
I mean, so that, I mean, I believe that would be the process that
Yeah.
we would have to
Yeah.
begin.
When I asked about it in December, right before we voted on it, you said we could talk about it at the budget and either put it in there or take it out,
Right, so-
whatever.
But we wouldn't, we could take it out of the budget, but you'd have to make a motion that would have to stop the special assessment that was put in place. What would have to occur?
Okay. Can I make a motion then that the special assessment for the lighting for $350,000 is stopped?
We have a motion.
Currently one on the table.
I'm sorry. Okay, so afterwards? Okay, so just keep going then?
She can make a motion right after, right? Or
There's
unless,
currently a motion on the table, so once that motion is addressed, then,
Well, how could it get addressed if that motion passes?
what's that?
The motion on the table was to pass the budget, so how could it get addressed if the budget gets passed?
Well, that would be,
That makes no
Yeah.
sense. This is supposed to be a discussion about the budget.
Well, this is a parliamentary procedure, though. A motion is on the floor, and it has to be completed. Either no vote occurs, or the motion it fails, and then you would have to have another motion that would maybe address that. You know, you can't just keep introducing changes along the process. We do have to follow the procedure.
Okay, so could we make a motion to table that motion until we talk more about taking things out?
It would, if the motion maker and the supporter agree to that.
Well, actually, once a motion is made and seconded, the motion belongs to the council, so it would be a council as a whole who would have to vote to withdraw that motion.
The question was
so-
about tabling.
That's a separate question, yes.
Roughly, if we were to take out $350,000, do we know where that would come from, or is it just straight out of the fund balance of savings that we
At this
have?
moment in time, it'd come out of the fund balance as previously.
11 million, right?
And the fund balance would go down from what number to what number?
Well, right now,
From
right now,
11.
we have a deficit of roughly 3 million, so it'd be 3,300,000.
Okay, so
3,350,000.
that would be about what percentage?
It would increase by 10%,
Okay.
the deficit.
But we're taking out of the fund balance to pay for it, so how is it decreasing it?
Well, I mean, right, I mean, the deficit is what we're, the use of the fund balance is what squares up the current year deficit is using the fund balance.
Right,
So,
but we have
right,
that.
so essentially, yes, it would use fund balance in order to create, a balanced budget.
So instead of saying we have a fund balance of 41% at $11.5 million, we would say. we have
Well,
a-
you wouldn't be 41% anymore, but yes.
Right, but it would just take it down to 11.2 instead of 11.5.
Well, no, you're gonna lose, no, you're gonna be at 8.5 from the 3,
Right.
so now you'd be at 8.2,
Right, but we'd still have that money to
give
pay
or
it.
take.
Doesn't this have to be, Mayor, doesn't this have to be passed by today, one way or another,
Or it goes month to month?
or goes
It
month
could
to
go-
month?
It'll go month to month after July 1st if nothing's enacted in January. I did remind
It's
you
going to
that,
affect
you
the
know,
tax
in-
bills going out,
Yeah.
though.
Right. I mean,
This is, this is
What-
exactly
what
what
is-
happened with
In the past.
the last time. You said we had to hurry up and pass it so it could go on the winter. Yes, you did. At
Well,
that
wait a
meeting,
minute.
you said it has to be passed right now. And then that's when Councilman Earl said, well, wait a minute. He voted no on it, and everyone else voted yes because you told us we had to pass it for those taxes. You said, let's wait till budget time. Now it's budget time, and right away we're saying it again. Oh, we have to pass it. At some point, we have to have discussion and fix things. We can't just be rushed into changing it all the time. And no discussion, nobody cares.
Mark, may I ask, one of those that are smarter than I am in this particular process, if we pass the budget, and then we made a motion to get rid of the lighting assessment, and that passed, then we could make another motion to amend the budget by that much money, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it would take, and I'm just saying that so that it would take the three,
Yeah.
But we
Motions.
voted on it last time to talk about it now before the budget.
right, and I understand that. but
Talking about it.
We're trying
We
to,
were supposed to talk about it before the budget got passed. That was the whole point of it. And it was brought up at the last budget meeting and the first budget meeting. So again, we're just getting pushed to hurry up and pass the budget, and then we'll go back. We said that in December. Now we're back. I don't understand why we just keep passing everything and saying we'll go back, and then we don't go back.
but we can
budget
do that
hasn't been
tonight.
passed yet.
1, 2, 3 is what I'm trying to
Talk about
say.
doing it all together tonight.
Yes.
Right.
Do one.
Okay.
Then do the second one.
Okay.
Then do the third one. I just wanted to make sure.
All in one day today.
Those that knew
Okay.
that it
All right, I'm for that.
really worked that way.
Or you could withdraw your motion. I could support the withdrawal of the motion. We could make that motion if it so chooses that it happens.
Also, can I interject that the special assessment and the millages are exclusive? So if you pass the millage, it doesn't mean that you automatically pass this special assessment. You can still pass the millages and turn down the special assessment.
But we already voted for it in December, so it wouldn't be until December, right?
We already have it for 5 years, so we would have.
But that's where we said that you want to amend that right now.
Right, so if we, I say what Jaylee said.
That's what I'm saying. Those are separate items.
I don't know, would that be clean enough to do it, the 3 motions in a row?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, what if we have more questions about the budget?
okay, go for it until we get to that point.
So we talked about exactly that, the street lighting, and you said, well, if we take that 300,000 out or 350, we might not be able to give some bells and whistles. So as you're looking through the budget, where are other ways that we can save? And I looked at the budget, and one thing I saw was that it's in there for $23,000 for food. And it seems like, and do I think that our employees deserve to have lunch bought once in a while? Sure, but maybe it's not on all the residents. So it's $23,000 of, hey, we're going to have a breakfast meeting at Eddie's, or hey, we're going to buy Tony Baloney's for $700, or, you know, there's certain guidelines for that. And some of the guidelines are you buy food when people like the police department or the fire department have long hours, or the volunteers that are doing the voting, you buy them. But you're not buying lunch or providing employees. The food money's supposed to be for the public. That's the only time you're supposed to use that, regardless of you say it's for publicity or whatever. It's not supposed to be for city stuff. And $23,000 is a lot of money. That's $23,000 we can put into the budget. You know, that would take part of that 350 down to whatever. So things like that in our budget, I just feel like that we could tighten it up. I don't know if anybody else looked at the budget and saw anything else that we could take out to save some money?
Council?
I think I kind of got stopped when I hit the food
When
line.
excuse me, when you say $23,000 for food, can you exactly reference where you say there's $23,000 in food?
That's what it's budgeted for somewhere.
Is
And
that what you reference by recognition for?
No. No,
city
it just says
council?
food, $23,000. And then my stuff isn't numbered in pages, so
Oh.
I couldn't tell you where it is. Let's see.
Is it under the fire department?
No? And then, I mean, I have a lot of questions about the budget. That says salaries in the communications department went up from $48,000 to $72,000. Did we add employees for that?
It's budgeted that they were going to add one full-time employee and reduce part-time employees.
Like I said, the budget that we got, none of them are numbered, the pages, so. Yeah, mine. This is the one
If you tell me the
that's the
account
draft.
number, that would help.
General fund, food allowance, $23,100.
Can you tell me the account number that's in front of it, the 9 numbers?
101-336-719-400.
Say that again? 101 what?
Sorry, 101-336-719-400.
So that there, that's a contractual amount with the fire department. They work 24-hour shifts, and they are given food allowances.
Okay.
We give them a food card at Kroger.
Okay, so that is in the.
That's a contractual amount that
Okay.
we pay for their
How
food
come that
while they
doesn't
work
get-
24-hour shifts.
How come that stuff doesn't get listed under the fire department? That would be so
That
much
is
easier.
under the fire department.
It's under general fund right here.
Well,
With 336.
336, it started on the other page, is the fire department.
Okay, so, okay. Let me just see if I have anything else.
Where would you list the food? We know there's food, for example, our grand opening at Radcliffe Friday
A lot of
night.
times those are listed under meetings.
It just gets lumped in with the meeting, so we
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
know.
And then also, that's about the Parks and Rec. Oh, I know what I was going to ask about, the rent at Radcliffe.
Sure.
So that includes the current people that are there.
Yes, ma'am.
Does anybody know if we got any more payments from the current person? Because we're including that as revenue in our budget.
At Radcliffe,
Yes.
we have not received anything since the last amount that we had talked to a couple of weeks ago.
Does anybody have any idea when he's going to pay?
I'm sure we'll be in contact with them shortly by the beginning of May.
We haven't been in contact with him since his last $20,000 payment?
Correct.
Has there been a protocol put in place to say what we're going to do moving forward? How they're going to pay the rent? Who's going to be in charge of talking to them when, they're overdue, that kind of thing?
Well, we'll be developing that now. There's new leadership, and like I said, I've mentioned to creating at least monthly things going forward from my department, and then if there's arrearages, we'll be kicking that up the ladder.
Did,
there.
thank you. I just want everyone to know that you're working on that. Did the additional charges that he owed back from September for the increase that never got added on, did those get onto his
Those will be
balance?
included in the lump sum that we will be billing him.
Okay, and if he doesn't pay, then what are we doing? Because we're including that in our revenue.
Then the council would have to start the process to begin the eviction process.
That's what I'm saying, it comes to council, it's not, have
Correct.
we ever had to do that?
No, we've not had tenants as such.
Okay, all right. All right, that was my last question about the budget then.
Okay. Further discussion from the table.
Yes, Mayor. For like the back payments for the certain tenant, is that something we end up charging interest on as well?
There's nothing in the lease to charge interest
Okay,
or late fee charges on top of that.
It's not in the lease.
Yeah, there's nothing no mechanisms in the lease for that.
okay.
Further discussion from the council. Okay, from the public.
We went through this last year where in our charter, it states we're supposed to have a balanced budget. I was informed by Mr. Messiniak, there's a state law that says you can use the money in reserves. I contend that if the state law existed, council still has to have a public hearing and adopt that into the charter. We have not done that. I also contend you can go into the federal government and they have that debt ceiling limit. We don't even have a debt ceiling on how far you can go in there. So I'm contending you need to take a course of action to address that issue before you can pass a budget. I don't know where we're going to go, but Kim, you're right. On the Parks and Rec, they are for advisement. But there's nothing on the charter that refers me to about 3 pages of information. So when are we going to update the charter to where it's legible and I don't come up here making a fool of myself? Them are your documents that you have to have under control. So, Mr. Miller, we need to have that addressed as soon as possible, I believe, because right now, I consider some of this as procedural irregularities and administrative manipulation. Many a times we come up here, ask a question, you give us an answer, but we don't get to make a rebuttal or ask for more information. I know it's not a question and answer period, that's someone's delusion of how to have a more professional meeting. I want answers, I want the citizens to know the answers. So what are you going to improve it in the future?
Thank you. Further comments?
Do we have a budget for Radcliffe yet? No. No, and you're going to approve a budget tonight without a budget for Radcliffe? Does that make sense to anybody? Again, a non-functioning government. No budget, no rent from Othello, but we sued our own library for back charges 6 years. That's unbelievable right there, too. You know, we don't have anything in writing. Fiscal responsibility is paramount to public trust and transparency. You know, every other city around, you can go to their website and see their grant money, their ledgers. Not here in Garden City, everything's a secret, right? I don't believe this. I don't know why there aren't more people up here. I don't understand why you people settle for so little in this town. This is not fiscal responsibility. When you had the last road bond, you paved a parking lot at Muller Field. I call that misappropriation of funds. That was for neighborhood roads. Now you're starting another road bond. So I looked up in Oxford language, misappropriations. You know what the other words are? Embezzlement, expropriation, swindle, stealing, theft, and thieving. When you're given money for a road bond for neighborhood roads, it's for neighborhood roads. You spent almost $1 million, and you started out saying it was going to include sidewalk, and then you turned around and you passed an ordinance to put the sidewalk on the residents. When is this stuff going to end? When is it going to end? And you sit there again, it's like talking to a row of cabbages.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, members of the council, Anthony Tack at Fairfield Avenue. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to urge you not to pass a budget if there are questions with the budget to this magnitude. There comes a point in time where we have to take control of our city. We have to take control of the money that's coming in and going out. And the urgency that the budget gets passed that I seem to see from some members of the council is concerning to me. If it's an urgency just for administrative purposes, that's not appropriate. That's not acceptable. That's not okay. We need to know what we're paying, and we need to know who we're paying. We need to know where the money is coming from, and the budget needs to be balanced so that we need to know where that is. This passing of a budget year over year over year, kicking the can for the discussion down a block, and down the block is inappropriate, and I question whether it's even legal. I would urge you not to pass a budget until we have these questions answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Lauren Anthony. I just wanted to get some clarification on the fact that we apparently still don't have a Radcliffe budget, which confuses me because I know when we had, when it had been brought up that Doc was going to be leaving, one of the things that was stated there was that before he left, he would have a budget for Radcliffe. So I'm wondering if, does that mean today is just not his official day? Does he still have more days? Or so today is, today is not his, okay, thank you. Because it's just, well, then I do just want to add though that I guess I'm confused as to why we weren't able to
to have a budget, because I understand that this is being paid with grant money, and I've worked for nonprofits before. We've gotten grants. I've applied for them. When you get a grant, you're supposed to be accounting for every single cent that is spent. So when it's spent, I imagine it's easier if it's written down. So I imagine he has been keeping track of it this entire time, so I don't fully understand why we don't have a budget for that situation. So I just wanted to bring up the confusion kind of that I have surrounding that. Part of it was clarified. Thank you very much.
It is written down, and Mr. Marciniak is putting it all together. We should have it very shortly.
Mayor, we actually got it before the meeting. He emailed everybody at 4 o'clock or something. I'm sorry. And I would like to address something that everybody said about Radcliffe. The different grants that we received, one of them was the federal omnibus. I think that was from Rashida. That was the 2.1, and that was for Radcliffe, because that's supposed to be for the gym. There was the federal ARPA for the gym, but there was also other grants that we got that, let's see here. Yeah, so there was also the 2.7 ARPA funds that were supposed to go to the PD, City Hall, and the fire department. But the fire department, we didn't take that money out of there because we got $800,000 from Dana, and we didn't do $500,000 worth of work at City Hall. So there's literally like another $1.7 million that just got allocated to Radcliffe. We didn't agree to that. That just went over there. That's not how it works. We got this money for something, we didn't use it for that, and then someone else just put it to Radcliffe. So really, there's like $6.9 million to still be used at Radcliffe, when some of it probably could have been used in other places. So even if we said, let's use it at Radcliffe, 6.9 is certainly enough for a gymnasium, all the other things to be fixed, and the roof to be fixed. But we still need to decide that money that's left over from not doing City Hall and from the fire department, who said that goes to Radcliffe? We didn't. So that could be money that could go into our budget to be used for a whole bunch of other things. That's a lot of money.
I haven't seen the email, so.
So I just think that the other point about this, and I will say that it says that our treasurer said he compared Radcliffe budget to what was provided for him. And I'm looking at this budget, and it's, what it says from the grant, $4 million, and it lists the things like $2 million for the gym, $500 for the roof. And then it says the amount utilized. And it says, you go down to the teen tech room with equipment, it was budgeted for $90,000. It says here that we've only used $235,000. But nowhere does that include the teen tech 2 is how it's billed for the esports or for the theater. And I've requested all the paid invoices since last August and went through. It's $500,000 we've spent, not $235,000. So we're on this budget that was presented to us today through email. It doesn't include the teen tech. It doesn't include the theater. It just says nothing about the card room for over $60,000. So this is not even close to being true. It's not even close. So we need to do something to figure out how much money we actually have and how much money, what we're supposed to be doing with it. And that could be part of our budget. So I just think, I don't know how we're going to pass a budget when we could say we have another $2.1 million.
I haven't seen that.
Mayor,
Councilmember Earl.
with Radcliffe, I'd like to see us get an audit into it to see exactly what has been spent, what we've brought in, and what has gone out. And I do know that I fully understand the fact that we only pay out, we only get the budget money or the ARPA money back once we pay it. I get that, but I would just like to see a better breakdown than that.
And with that, we haven't been reimbursed for any of it yet. And like I said, that ARPA money, that could have been used for anything. We needed it for the police station, and they're putting those things in, but that money we didn't spend for the fire department, $800,000, or the $500 we were supposed to put in our city hall, all that could go in our budget. $500,000 city hall we didn't do. That pays our lighting bill. There we go. We don't even have to take it out of the fund. So I don't understand how we can pass a budget when we have all these questions.
Further comments from the public?
It goes back to transparency. How can this city purchase Radcliffe and not have a clue as far as what the expenses are going to be? talking about ethics, how can you allow a person who's in that building, business, whatever, not to pay rent? I mean, I don't think that's very ethical. So here we have Radcliffe. I don't want to get burned by all those expenses. I didn't improve it. You have the roof that has to get repaired. How much came in grants that we don't know about? What's been dispersed? Yes, we need an audit, and that audit needs to be made public. So we, as the taxpayer, can see where this money is going and where it's not going. As far as I'm concerned, Radcliffe, I think, was a bad idea, because we're going to get hit with a lot of expenses that weren't probably thought of. Because none of you, well, I'm not going to say none of you, but some of you, have just sat there, never questioned anything about Radcliffe. Okay, yep, we're going to go ahead and prove it. What is wrong with you people? You sit there, you don't question anything. All you do is, yep, we're going to prove it. That money's coming out of my pocket, it's coming out of everybody else's pocket. And if that's the way you run your household, then God forbid what's going to happen. You cannot run a city, a business, or anything unless you know what's coming in and what's going out. Everybody, business, city, whatever, needs to be an audit. And everything has to be accountable. And as our city council, it is up to you to make sure everything is accountable, rather than sitting there like a deer with lights. You know, that you just look there as if, okay, people are talking about it. I don't really care. I'll just go ahead and prove it. You need to question everything, and you don't. There's no reason why we have to come up here and almost beg you to do something. That's not right. Radcliffe it's just a thorn in everybody's side, and it's going to keep getting worse because nobody knows what the expenses are going to be. And for somebody to purchase this and not know how much the gas is going to be, or electric, or water, or anything else, no, that's wrong. And some people have never questioned it. You just keep passing it, and that's wrong.
Thank you.
Mayor, I just would like to say that I don't think any money is missing or stolen or anything like that. I just think it's spending. I don't think anybody's doing anything wrong when it comes to stealing money, but the spending is what we need to reel in and get a handle on. And what money we have available that we thought we didn't.
Okay, further comments from the public? Okay, what's the motion, Mr. Smith?
So we have a couple options, as my understanding. So we can do the three-step process if we wanted to. Also, the maker and second could rescind that motion if you wanted to address the lighting first, and then we could go back to the budget. Also, as interim clerk Miller mentioned, if we wanted to revise the motion and do section 1, where it's the millage rates, to approve that without adjusting, doing anything with section 2 of the proposed ordinance, you could do that as well. But as he mentioned, if you don't approve section 2, basically what it does is it just reverts to the 23-24 fiscal year budget on a month-to-month basis until we approve a 24-25 budget. So it is the will of the council, but those are kind of the options as the maker and second.
Okay, I'm willing to withdraw it.
I'm willing to second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that motion's off.
So can I make a motion to withdraw the lighting assessment, the special assessment for $350,000?
Yes.
Support.
I'm sorry, who supported?
I did.
Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, discussion from the table.
I think we should do it.
Further discussion from the table. From the public.
Okay, I was here in 2011 when all this started. I still have my little postcard because the first year they sent out postcard. billing for the assessment. At the 4/8 council meeting, the city manager said it was never intended for improvement, but like Stacy said, the charter implies an assessment is for an improvement, and it was sold to us to include an improvement. And Bob Murray took care of a grant getting some lights put in. In 2019, council approved $31,000, I think, for 7 lights over on Manor Park, because one resident came up here and said the street was dark. Well, I live close to Cherry Hill and Middle Belt. There's 5 streets over there with no street lighting, none whatsoever. I didn't find that out till this past year when I tried to walk my dogs down a street that was pitch black. So all the families that live there, all the little kids that live there, trick-or-treaters, everything, pitch black. Why don't those streets have lights? What are we gonna do about it? You took care of 7 fancy light poles on Manor Park for 1 resident who came up. I'm asking you to put some street lights on those 5 streets between Cherry Hill and Middle Belt, please. Those people are paying the lighting assessment too. And I hope you're gonna go forward and get some grants for the LED lights throughout the city. That was sold to us as having safer streets. Lighting is very important for our seniors and everybody else, so please, whatever you do on the lighting assessment, please move forward on the LED lights, and please light up those 5 blocks that deserve street lights. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. So that's for removing the lighting assessment, right? Now, do we need to pass section 1 for the millage levies, for the bill coming up?
Correct. If we need to reconfigure things in section 2, like I said, as interim clerk Miller mentioned, just for the purpose of, we will need to begin the process of prepping for the summer tax season. We can make a motion to approve section 1 of the ordinance, and then adjust section 2 for a later date if council chooses to not approve the full thing today.
There were no changes to section 1, were there, from last year?
I'm not sure about that.
We're talking about the whole thing.
No, we're talking about section 1, the millage.
Section 1.
The millage rates.
Millage levies.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to adopt section 1 of the tax levy ordinance as presented with no action on section 2.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Support from Councilmember Karafotis. Further discussion from the table? From the public?
Can you just explain what you're doing? I don't have it in front of me. Section 1, section 2.
Section 1 is the millage levies authorized, which is 22.6750 mils per 1,000 of taxable valuation within the city, which Mr. Marciniak said is 1 mil less than last year. 1 mil less than last year that was charged. So we're just approving that. It's not the bottom section that does all the general fund summaries, which that's,
Millage is there too for rubbish, right? For refuse?
yes.
How can we approve that without?
Explain that, because it was 1.25 and now it's 0.42. What are we doing there?
Might have Brian.
Mr. Marciniak, can you come up and?
125 down to .4750.
Don't want to be, I work at the direction.
Thank you.
Mayor, we are having people speaking out of turn, though.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Yes, a year ago or so, we got a new rubbish contract. We were working with some extra funds. So this year, in order to, because that new contract was very advantageous to us, we had the ability to lower that rate considerably. So therefore, we're going to do that. It makes no sense to continue. So if we were to overcharge the residents of the city, so therefore we took that millage down considerably.
I think the confusion is they're saying rubbish and the garbage stuff is the same.
Okay, I know.
Disposal.
You and I as well had this discussion as well. Garbage, the city collects the revenue in order to pay for garbage / rubbish, whichever way you want, in two phases. The collection portion and also the disposal portion. So the disposal portion is collected through a millage, which is in the section 1, which is about to be approved. That's for the dumping or tipping fees, which happen over at Meadowland, over towards Vigor and Township. And then also then we have the collection portion, which was the fees that are in the fee schedule, which we had previously really had the workshop on. That's as a special assessment. And those two are combined within the same Department of General Fund now, and that creates the total revenue, which pays for the two different expenses that are in the same department as well. So that's why one's a millage, one's a special assessment. And the millage would decrease considerably because we got a very favorable rate out of the dump for us. There was actually a bit of, with the 1.25, we did have quite a bit of excess money for that. That helped couple along with reducing the millage rate and making a better millage rate going forward. So obviously we pass those on to the consumers or the residents.
Thank you for explaining that.
Okay, further comments from the table? Public?
Why is the refuge, which is the dumping of it, a variable charge? Does that mean that your trash that's being dumped is better than my trash? I pay a lower amount, you pay a higher amount? Versus when they pick it up, it's all the same. So why are you putting the refuge in a variable amount versus a fixed rate? Because that's saying that somebody's trash is worth more than somebody else's. So I would think that it should all be a fixed rate.
We asked that question before.
I think it's
Because-
just based on your taxable value.
It's state statute on the assessment of your house. So if my house is worth more than yours, I get charged more for garbage.
We more than batteries out there.
That's not something that's required by the state. That's not something that we can change, correct?
Actually, we do raise the money under state statute for the fees for the dumping. That's called, it's through they call it a facility tax in order to do that. So that's why it says a millage. Not necessarily that someone who has a great, nice, big house, they do pay more. Actually, businesses in town contribute to that as well. Obviously, personal property, it's across the board. But that's in the state way back in 1916 or 17, I believe, created this statute in order for the cities to create up to 3 mills of revenue in order to pay for the facilities in order to dump garbage. Because getting rid of garbage and sanitation is a pretty important thing for cities to make sure we don't have issues inside of towns. So that's the means in order for that to happen. So that's why that's used as a millage or a statute. The statute creates the millage versus a special assessment. And those are the rules we get to play by in order to do the collection is through a special assessment. And that's just the rules that we're given to play by.
So we can't change that part about
No,
assessing.
we
Thank
have
you.
to use it for disposal.
Okay, any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passed 7-0. Okay, I think we're on to item 3, the water and sewage rates. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Squires.
I move to adopt the ordinance to amend sections 53.03 and 53.04 of Chapter 53, Title 5 of the City of Garden City Code, providing for rates and charges for water and sewer service, and providing for billing for water and sewer disposal services.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Witt. Discussion from table.
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
do we have a choice in this matter?
What's that?
What if we all said no? No.
Which
I'm
would
sorry.
affect our general fund. He said it would stay as is, which would affect our fund.
Yeah, this is to adjust the current rate, so obviously if everyone said no and there was no change, or we brought it back and whatever happens in the future. But right now, if nothing were to pass, it would stay at the current rate.
So we're getting charged more. If we said no, we would be still paying more, but collecting less.
If you said no, it would stay at the current rate of what you're currently being charged.
But we're being billed for more.
Will be billed for more, yes.
Okay, further discussion from the table.
Yeah, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
Mr. Marciniak, are any of these increases coming from Great Lakes, or is it just the city?
No, the 3.5% for the variable charge for the water consumption, that's a pass-through from Great Lakes. Mr. Omen spoke about that during his budget presentation.
Okay.
I'm just going to stay here.
What about the rest of it?
As I spoke, the 10% increases were due to, we stuck pretty rigidly to only like a 3.5% over the last several years. Actually, we've been hit with higher increases in wages, healthcare, and retirement of our employees, which is part of the ready-to-serve charges. Also, our meters have gone through the roof. All those other costs have increased, just like our garbage contract, our gasoline, all those things have increased, and we can't stick to a 3% increase, which we have over the last 5 years.
Thank you.
I'm still staying.
Further comments from the table.
I would just sit right there.
You have more batteries, Zach? Comments from the public.
I appreciate your explanations, Mr. Marciniak. The only thing I'd like to say is that the rates wouldn't still stay the same because everybody's assessment went up 5% last year, and the city was delighted to do it. My assessment at my business went up 5%. My assessment at home went up 5%. And since the one is a millage, that's 5% higher on that, even if the rate stays the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments?
My understanding is on that light item, we don't have a price on what Wayne County's gonna charge us for the sanitary. And I believe that is something that historically we pass the budget here and then about 2 months later they come back. Is that gonna happen?
What are we talking about? We're talking about the water.
All right, this is water and sewer, this not sanitation rates.
Pardon?
It's not sanitation rates, it's water and sewer rates.
It's, right, that's what I'm saying, but historically, I went back and looked at it. 2 months later, they usually come up and tap us for the sanitary.
But that's, but
Is that gonna happen
we're talking about
this
water
year?
and sewer.
What?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I got you. So typically, they usually, and he isn't incorrect, We have had adjustments in the past, but the last two adjustments we had several years ago would be about 4 years ago. They raised it like 0.5%. In about December, we got notice. We didn't change the rate. 2 years ago, they lowered it by a little more than 5%, and we actually did lower the rate in January by about 5%. So we have not raised the rate since I've been here in the mid-year since 2019.
There you go.
And then the next question I have is, when are we going to get reimbursed for the Highland Park money? Has anybody made a discussion on that? And my other question on that is, why was there not criminal charges for that action? I mean, let's get something straight. If Ford Motor Company was not getting a payment from me and took it from you, Mr. Jacobs, what would you do?
There you go. But I'm not a lawyer, so I'll ask Mr. Marciniak, where's the lawsuit with Highland Park going?
I think some of our council members are involved in that through CWW, and that they have some insight into that. Right now, my understanding is, last I've read, we get emails on and off from either the state or GLWA. There's working through some settlements right now. It's been positive on both sides. Just to let people know, I know there's a lot of concern about that, of what Garden City is owed. Right now, that amount is less than $60,000 over those 11 to 12 years that they didn't pay. The most of the communities that were hardest hit from that lack of paying by Highland Park were the ones that were in the same, I guess you'd call it conglomerate, that were using the sewer. We weren't using the same sewer system as Highland Park. Those were the communities such as Dearborn, where some of those, they're in for it for millions and millions with Highland Park. So like I said, once again, they owe us about $60,000. They're making arrangements through the state and GLWA. I believe the last thing happened, Highland Park finally approved something, the last that I know of, and it's been going back, and they're kind of getting to their final details. The process, I do not know, but like I said, I know that they've been, for lack of a better word, shaking hands about acknowledging it and going forward on rectifying it in the future.
And the last question is when the three communities left the Wayne County system and entered Washtenaw County, there was a discussion of a bond obligation of those three communities. Have we found out any answer on what's happening with that? If someone knows of someone that lives in those three communities, you might be able to call them and see if on their bill there's a charge for Wayne County sanitation. But that's something I'm concerned about, because the deterioration of our system was created because of the Northwest cities.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I do know that the indebtedness that those three communities that left and went to the Yucca system over in Ypsilanti, that they are paying those obligations still. So they didn't abandon the debt service charges that they owed going forward. Obviously, the biggest part we were hit with was, obviously, they took out a good portion of the operating cost when they moved out that we had to assume. And that was when if you recall, back in 2019, a lot of discussion about the Rouge Valley charges and things like that. That's when all of that was happening. And most of what was driving that was the makeup for the operational charges that those three communities leaving the Rouge Valley and going over to the other system that they were putting in. So it's a Peter and Paul thing at that point in time. But they are paying their debt services that they agreed to pay on before they left. They are still making those payments.
Thank you. Okay, further comments? You want to go for the motion? Water and sewer rates?
Would you like a roll call? Or-
We already have a motion.
Yeah, there was a motion.
Yeah, we already got the motion.
Councilmember Witt, okay. Go ahead and do a roll call.
Councilmember Squires?
Aye.
Councilmember Witt?
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch?
Aye.
Councilmember Earl?
Aye.
Councilmember Karafotis?
Nay.
Councilmember Dold?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Motion passes 6-1. Item 4, bond authorizing ordinance. Where's Mr. Marciniak?
This is the last time, I promise. Okay, before you is an ordinance, obviously I left a letter attached from our bond counsel, Mr. Mann. This is for the water project through the state revolving fund. Going to happen mostly on the east side of town. Roughly a $9 million project. Half of it will be done through a Eagle grant. The other will be through SRF bond. This bond is not to exceed $5 million. We really expect it to be a little over $4 million, with about 10% of the project of debt forgiveness. So another $4 or $5 million of that bond, I should say, 10% of the bond forgiveness will get forgiven through the grant as well, but that'll be over time. And according to the ordinance that this, or the state statute that this was adopted under or proceeded under through the SRF, we don't have to publish any hearing, or we don't have to have multiple readings at a council meeting. Council just needs to adopt it as an ordinance because it's a special revenue funding to accept the bond resolution, and we'll be able to move forward with the sale of the bonds. And it's going to go through the state revolving fund, so it's not an open sale like we just recently had with the road bonds that we just recently sold.
Okay, thank you. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve the following ordinance in accordance with Public Act 94 of 1933, authorizing water supply system junior lien revenue bonds to be issued in an amount not to exceed $5 million, and authorize the publication of the full ordinance.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Earl. Further discussion from table.
Where is
I have
it
a
going to be
question.
published?
Oh.
Sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem
That's
Dole.
what I was going to ask. What is our method of publication now, since we no longer have a newspaper?
It's going to go in the free press.
Yeah, we've had discussion over that. And that's what
It does go in the free press?
It will
Was
cost
there-
a lot of money.
It's going to cost a lot of money, yeah.
It hurt. I haven't figured it out yet, but it's a lot.
It's my understanding that the city of Westland is using the marketplace,
Right.
Correct.
and we can't do that? I'm
Still not
sure it's-
considered a true publication in accordance to my interpretation of the publication laws.
There is, it's not on this, but there is legislation that they're working on up in Lansing to allow using social media to publish.
Well, they're going to have to.
Right.
Everybody's losing their newspapers.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, because I would assume that Westland had a legal opinion on this, and I didn't know if we did that, if we took that step, because I would think it's a lot less expensive than the free press.
It's a lot. I think there was an issue with the
It's the distribution.
monthly versus, if we were wanting to put this out.
Timing on it.
Yep. So, okay, we have a motion and a support. Further comments from table? From the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Marciniak. Okay, item 5 is the contract extension for sanitary sewer outlets flow metering. Mr. Miller.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Well, we've had a lot of talk about sewage, and this is actually an agreement before you to actually have the monitoring of how much flow goes out into the system. We've used ADS Environmental Services since 1997, and they've been able to provide us excellent service to monitor how the flow occurs in the Rouge Valley system. This is for a 4-year contract extension, not to exceed $74,640 that will be paid over a 4-year period.
Okay, motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to approve a 4-year contract extension for sanitary sewer outlets flow metering with ADS Environmental Services of Troy, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $74,640.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Karafotis. Further discussion from the table. From the public.
This flow meter, what my understanding is showing how much sanitation lines going into the main. Has anybody taken a look at when we had the flooding, if maybe the downstream water was pushing it back in? You could get a reading of that. I'm contending the flooding we had was generated from the north area, and you capacitated the system, and it did not allow ours to break in because I think it's just a T conformation. I'm thinking that we need to have a reading of that, and then what we could do is where we tap in, we could put a little divot, and that would keep the stream of the water going down the main from pushing back into our system, because we need to look at this, folks. Nobody else is going to. We need the systems enlarged. So can we take an effort and see if we can find any substantial information of establishing what I just stated?
Thank you. Mr. Omen's not here, but I believe there are backflow preventers in there.
It's in the memo provided by him. It does talk about rain events and backflow.
Okay. Further comments?
Backflow preventers, has anybody done any research on putting them on our residential properties?
Mr. Omen is not here, so I don't know.
I'd like to have it looked into, but I don't think it's feasible.
Further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 6, animal shelter contract with Romulus.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Chief. Sorry
I
about
snuck
that.
up anyways. Thank you, Mayor and Council. In March, we entered some discussions about adjusting and renewing the contract with the City of Romulus, providing the animal shelter. Over the past few years, we have searched for alternate solutions because of a growing sort of animal population we have in town, particularly dogs after COVID, as we've discussed before. Though this is a very, very underserved market, we have a lot more demand than we do supply. So we have constantly tried to adjust things and find ways, but ultimately, our best partner in this so far has been Romulus, though there's some improvements certainly. And even them, they acknowledged in our discussions is, we realize that, it's sort of a first come, first served. They start running out of space very quickly when other cities overutilize their animal pound, and then when we come to the door, all the slots are filled. During the course of the discussion, it was a number was set in for 15, so Garden City would have 15 spots available, and they can't say no. Only because they do run their shelter, certainly they could say, hey, we've run out of shelter because of our animal needs. But generally, I was given the promise that we can get up to 15 dogs. We've done extensive surveys over the last little bit. The most we've really encountered where we probably would need is about 12. Typically, we send about 4 to them, but we probably needed about 12 because quite often it was not available to us. So, the true study got us around 12 per month that we would be housing somewhere. So we're very comfortable with that 15 number. If we exceeded 15, we'd have to pay more. It doesn't mean we couldn't exceed 15. I don't anticipate us exceeding 15 very often, if at all. But what it helps us with is more high-end demand communities coming to them, being limited by their available space, and they would have to pay more as well. So it should result in a more equitable use of space. That said, we're still up against it in Wayne County. There's not enough spaces for the dogs that seem to be out at large and available. So this is a step in the right direction. I'm not going to promise that any solutions to the overall problem are immediately solved with this one, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And I commend Romulus. They take on a huge task for a lot of the communities around us to try and meet a need that there's just not enough supply to be met. So it's a rock and a hard place. They're great partners, and we've acknowledged when there's been difficulties. It is a tough job, but they're bearing some of the burden for the entire area. So it's a nice balance what we're getting. It's a 2-year contract, but within 30-day notice, we can terminate the contract. I don't anticipate that in the near future unless we find a much more viable solution, but it might take 2 years to figure out such a solution. But I would say going forward, this is a good contract for us today, right now, and moving forward, it's something council should approve. So glad to answer any questions.
Any question? No.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
Just on the contract, it talks about in the event something happens to their shelter.
Correct.
Fire or anything like that, that they're excused from the performance of this contract. Are we also excused from paying them?
Yes, so first of all, it's pretty much a usage contract. There are some base amounts, but if they're unavailable to us, we don't have to pay for the thing. And one other thing that can happen is sometimes shelters, if quarantine procedures aren't made properly in Parvo, it gets into the shelter. It's a horrible thing, but it shuts down the shelter and things like that. So we recognize there are events beyond their control that can happen. But ultimately, it's pretty much a pay-for-use contract. So I don't anticipate us having to pay much, if anything, if they are out of service. So.
Okay. Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the attached agreement with the City of Romulus for providing animal shelter services for Garden City for a duration of 2 years with the option to terminate within 30 days' notice.
Support.
What's that, you?
I think, I thought I heard something down there.
Councilmember Witt. Sorry about that, couldn't hear. Okay, further discussion from the table.
Mayor?
Councilmember Karafotis.
As being part of the solution, I think that this is a great thing. If everybody doesn't realize how many strays there are in Garden City, just look at the Facebook, the Lost Dog pages, saying only 15 kennels are going to be available is going to help a lot, and I mean a lot. So it seems like this might be an expense, but when you think about what we used to pay the Michigan Humane Society, it's nowhere close to this contract. Mm-hmm. So times have changed. The space is not available for any city and any shelter. So for us to get an increase, it's a huge plus for us.
Okay, thank you. Further comments?
Mayor?
Councilmember Squires.
I just want the public to know that it is $1,000 a month that will be paid, probably from the general fund. I'm assuming, or-
Yes, it's a general fund expense.
Okay,
But it's paid as used,
thank
right?
you.
Yeah, there is a certain base amount, and then it's paid as used, so.
So if we don't use those 15, we don't pay for those 15.
Okay, further comments from the table? From the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Item 7 is the city manager selection process. Mr. Miller.
Good evening again. This is a process that is in your packet regarding the filling of Doc's position. I put together some information for you, and I kind of modeled it. I did look at some executive searches. I was personally involved in one a number of years ago before coming here, and then also the MML and NeoGov, who we use as our agency that we post the jobs through. And some of the things that they offered through those services and that I put together was a recruitment brochure, also the marketing to put online all of this, all of the hiring information that would be out there. We would use the MML, we would use our website, the ICMA, and also NeoGov to put through this out there nationally for it. We would also do a pre-screening of the candidates and reference checks we'd be able to do through our normal personnel procedures. Also the interview questions, we were able to find the candidate questions that were asked of Doc, and then Lauren and I put those together, and then we've actually been able to add a few on there. And then inside your packet is also a kind of a schedule that we would follow. If we follow this schedule, we're all on board with that, and then we would be able to put the brochure out, set the date on the limits for when we would accept the final resumes, and then each step of the process for the council, when we would have to call special meetings. All of that is kind of laid out in the memo I gave to you, and I put in bold just dates that were important for the procedure and the process, and then also there is a full council public interview schedule that we mimicked actually from the Florida experience that Doc had, and we were able to put together just kind of, if it comes down to 5 candidates in the end, how those candidates would be interviewed by the council in pairs, and then there would also be a public process also that would go forward. I was asked to put this together. Of course, we need to fill the position, and I put together all the information that we kind of I found through this search process, and then also our normal hiring procedures that we use for the city. So.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Dalton.
I just really want to make a statement, and it's probably not going to be a real popular statement with this council, but we have an election coming up in November where 4 of these seats are open. We know at least 3 of these people up here are going to be new people. And I personally would like to wait and let the new council decide on our city manager, since they are going to be the council that's going to be working with this city manager. I know it's a ways away, but it's not unheard of to have an interim for that long.
All right. My opinion would be we can go ahead. This would put a permanent city manager in place by July, at the end of July, probably August, by the time it came about. If the new council in November wanted to remove them, they could.
Mayor?
Councilmember Karafotis.
Just a couple questions. So we would put all of these advertisements out with all these different websites, and we would just wait for people to see those, and that's how we would get interviews?
Yes.
So I think everybody on council was contacted by different companies. I spoke to 3 different companies, whether they're headhunting companies or where they actually find the candidates. Some of them were priced exorbitantly. They were a percentage of actually whatever the hiring salary was, so it could be up to $30,000 or $40,000. One of the companies that is local here, they don't charge that much. They don't charge a percentage on that salary at all. They range from $5,000 to $18,000. They do cities like Redford, Clawson, Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor with 100% success rate. They also have a year guarantee, and it doesn't matter if you spend the $5,000 or the $18,000. If you hire someone from their process, if you lose that person, regardless of if they're fired or quit within 1 year, they will do the whole service for you again for free. And other than doing all the stuff that Matt just said, they also they find the candidates, so they will give council 7 to 10 candidates. So they're finding these people that they know are looking for jobs. They're not just waiting for someone to see it on our website or the MML. And that could be a big difference. Even when we were watching the interviews with Doc in Florida, they were all saying how long it's taking. The process is taking forever. And you're saying by July 1st, most of these companies are saying nobody's going to hire someone. You know, a short term would be 10 to 12 weeks. That's not July 1st. This is almost June. So getting someone just by putting an ad out there, I don't think we're going to be very successful in getting quality candidates or enough candidates to make a responsible choice. So, I mean, at some point, you have to say spending a little bit of money to get some candidates. I mean, this is the most important job in our city. I think it's worth spending a little bit of money on to get candidates from all over. I mean, look how hard it was for Doc. He had several interviews. And some of those people were the same people because there's just not that, I mean, several interviews over the last couple of years. Some of those people were the same people because there's just not that many people out there that are applying for city managers. So I think we have to take a serious thought and realize this is an important decision, someone that's going to lead our city for hopefully the next several years.
I agree, it could take time, but again, if we don't get an appropriate person that we all agree on, then if we just put it out, or we can then reach out to a headhunter. But
you're talking about it's being a rush, we got to get somebody in there.
I didn't say it was a rush, I just...
Well, no, but we're talking about a timeline, so if the headhunter's saying, I can't even get you 7 quality candidates in maybe 10 or 12 weeks, and we're just going to say we're going to put it out on the internet and hope we get a couple people, it's irresponsible to me that we're not going to make more of an effort to get a quality person.
No, we've never had a problem before.
We had about 14 candidates the last time.
That was 6 years ago.
Okay.
Those things have
14
changed.
is a nice number.
But that was 6 years ago. Things have changed since then. And every headhunter or anybody that you talk to regarding this, they're not getting a lot of applications. Look how long it took all these other places. I mean, people are just going from one place to the other. Look how long it took for Wayne or the place that Doc just went to. They didn't have anybody for how long? They had an intern for how many years? or one right after another. So I just think we need to put some more thought into it, and I don't see, we're talking about the budget. If we spend some money to guarantee that we get 7 quality people.
If I recall talking to Doc, he said the city that he's going to paid, what, $77,000 for a headhunter?
Right, because that company goes by the percentage of their wages. So if he's making $250,000, they're getting 77 out of that they have to pay. The company that I was mentioning doesn't do that. It's just a flat rate. And the other companies do it that way also.
I get that, but I understand that back when Doc was hired, it was just put on these few listings, and we got 6.5 years out of a city manager. And you're saying the new headhunters are saying only 7. I don't mind seeing, without spending the money to take the chance to see what applicants that come in, because we don't have to make a decision on those applicants, and then we can make a decision going forward if we want to purchase a headhunter firm to do that.
I wasn't talking about 7 years. I was talking about, it wasn't 7 years, it was 7 quality candidates.
No. I'm saying we got 6 years out of not using a headhunter firm.
But that was 6 years ago. The market has shrunk.
I get that, but I would like to see what is going to come in, because again, we don't have to make a decision on that group of people, but we get to see what candidates are out there applying just through MML, just through NeoGov, just through the other ICMA. Like, everyone that is a city manager or is through the ICMA. So somebody who already has experience would notice the job posting through ICMA.
Okay, one of the issues I also have, we just talked about, is interviews where it's like pairing up of council people. All of that interview needs to be public. It can't be behind closed doors. It can't be me and Pat talking to someone. Everything that is said in an interview needs to be public. Nothing goes behind closed doors.
There's public interviews.
Everything needs to be public about it. There's no private behind closed doors. It's not two people pairing up with him and talking to him outside of that.
It's not exactly interview, it's more of a meet and greet than it is an interview.
Right, but it's not supposed to be behind closed doors. It's not supposed to be me and you in the office.
It can
But
be.
you can ask the same questions in front of the public when we have the meet and
Why
greet
does
with the
it need to
public.
be? Why does it need to
Just
be?
as a personal get to know a candidate.
And then we're just going to do the same thing over again?
It's not going to be the same questions. I might
Then-
want to get somebody and talk to them and find out how friendly they are, how much they know just by asking simple questions. What have you been involved in? How many times has your family moved over the past couple of years? Questions like that you're not going to ask them from the seat. It's
But then you
questions-
would get those answers. So if we asked those questions all in public, we'd all get those answers. So you'd have questions, she'd have questions. We could all get all that knowledge together at once instead of depending on you to remember which questions they answered. So why not do it all with everybody together?
See, but then you go from an intimate time with the person that's coming in to then you're taking 45 minutes to an hour per person on interviews with questions at a public meeting.
As it is, we'll probably have 14 questions. That's probably going to take over an hour for them to answer the 14 questions.
I'm sure it's not going to be one meeting. I hope we wouldn't make a decision in one meeting, so it could be how many meetings?
No, but the interviews are going to be one evening, and it's going to be interview 1, 2, 3, and go to 4 and 5.
That's what I'm
Plus,
saying.
it's over 2 days.
We can't have discussion on, instead of what our mayor just said, let's just pair up. Somebody else might have a different idea, or we might research it and have a different idea. I just think that's an odd thing where after watching all the proceedings in Florida and Doc going to that, they absolutely did not have private conversations.
Yes, they
Yes, we did.
And,
Yes, they did.
didn't half the council think it was inappropriate? And didn't most of the residents think it was inappropriate? Yes, they did. When they came up and they asked who talked to him, we weren't supposed to do this. Who talked to him?
That was over something different. That particular question was over
Then that's
something
not.
different.
All right,
Well, maybe
go
if we have more public interviews, we won't have the issues we had with our last city manager and our residents.
Okay, well, right now, if anyone wants to make a motion on moving forward with this, or we can,
Mayor, if I could, since everyone else talked before we made a motion, the one thing that I'm fine, this brochure, somebody did a great job on the brochure, and I'm fine with putting it out. I'm just not fine with being held to a timeline,
because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So if we make the motion including the timeline, that's the issue that I have. I just don't want to put a timeline in there and then we don't get anybody, or we are getting people, but maybe we're having issues. So I think
What?
putting a timeline in there and hammering it down, I have a problem with that.
Okay, I know the, part of that was because certain people said that we weren't prepared and we didn't have anything in writing or ready to go. So I believe that was part of the purpose of putting a timeline down, was to prove or to show that we were ready for it. You obviously have to have a date when applications would have to be in by. So other than that, everything else could be flexible.
Yes.
So if you want to, if somebody wanted to make a motion, they could just make it with a, when the applications were due, which, and this is June 24th. And then we can go after that, depending on how many people apply, if we like them. If we think we have quality people, then we can adjust the timelines as it moves forward.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Mayor?
Councilmember Squires.
I move to approve the hiring brochure for the city manager position and applications due June 24th for the hiring process to be implemented by the personnel director and interim city manager.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Further discussion from table.
Who's the personnel director?
What's that?
Who's our personnel director?
I believe that's Lauren Minch.
Yes.
Further discussion.
What role does the personnel director have in all of it?
HR.
And I ask, and I will tell you why I ask, because Lauren was hired, to my knowledge, Lauren was hired with no HR experience. She was hired as a director of the HR department, which we were told is not a department because that's not in our city charter. So we did not, as a council, have to approve her as a director of a department that doesn't exist. So I have a little bit of problem with that, and I need to understand what her role is going to be in this, because I don't know that she's experienced enough for that.
Well, her role will certainly be part of the process where all applications for the city employment go through that office. So she will be receiving those, all of those resumes and, you know, putting them together so that the council has them. That's going to be the role. When it comes time, we move forward with the process. She makes sure that these applicants comply with the requirements, background checks. If we select a candidate, health screening, drug screening, all of that. She handles the administrative process for the hiring process for a city employee.
And that's under your supervision?
Yes.
Further comments from table? From the public?
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Brendan MacArthur, 31734 Cambridge. I would just like to echo what Mayor Pro Tem Dold said. I think with the upcoming election, there's 4 seats open. We know for a fact 3 of you council members will not be back. It'd be irresponsible to move forward with this. And I know it's easy enough to say, they can just fire them and hire somebody new. The cost of hiring someone and then firing someone is extraordinary. You know, there's a lot to that, and it's easy enough to blow it off, but we got to start being responsible at some point. You know, these are big things. We're always rushing. Everything's a rush. We got that budget at the end of April. It was due in the beginning of April, and now we're rushing to take care of it tonight. Why is it always such a rush? We have to slow down and be responsible. You know, we have to start looking into the future. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, I'd also like to parrot Mayor Pro Tem Dold's sentiment that we should wait. If we have 3 seats turning over, that's a significant portion of the council. That's 3 people's sentiments that we need to be, I guess, hold in some regard. Hold in some regard. I don't see the urgency to move forward. I don't think we're going to get a candidate in a short order. I don't think we're going to get a quality candidate in a short order. I'm not sure of you, if anybody has sought for anybody to work for them recently, but it's not just city managers that are in short supply. Anybody of technical acumen or prowess is in short supply. Anybody with a business background is of short supply. We need to spend a little bit of time and consideration in choosing who it is that's going to stand in for you guys on a day-to-day basis and run this city responsibly without overspending, without coming to this council week over week over week without a budget that's been asked for week over week over week. We need some accountability and we need some skill in that position, not just somebody who's willing to just sign a contract and never hold anybody accountable for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
Lisa Puma, and I agree with what Ms. Dole said. We have 3 of yous leaving. Not that, no disrespect, but your ideas aren't going to be the same as the people who are going to fill those seats. So we should wait and get a fresh account of everything so everybody agrees. Why should we put somebody in that seat now when 3 people are leaving that have different ideas? We don't want to have a conflict of interest anymore. We're done with that. And I don't see, it's less than 5 months. So I think it's worthy to wait. I do. He's doing a great job. I know he's got other responsibilities, but he can hang in there. He's a toughie. Matt's a toughie. He can hang in there. But I honestly think we should wait.
One day on the job, you're awesome.
He can do it. I have faith in him. And you should too. And you should too. And you should consider that.
Well, if we didn't, we wouldn't have picked him. Any further comments?
I also agree with Councilperson Kim Dold that the process should be done after the new elections take place and the new council is seated. I watched Doc's interviews in Florida for the last 2 cities or municipalities that he interviewed with. What my fear and concern is, I don't want to see our city locked into a buyout that's going to dramatically cost the city a huge sum of money if the council loses faith in the city manager. And by that I mean if the city manager in his interviews says, this is the way I govern, this is the way I manage, and then comes in and does something totally different, I want the city to be able to get rid of him or her without paying a huge financial price. Based on what I saw of Doc's interviews down in Florida, I didn't recognize him from the city manager that he was here. I don't want us in that position again. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments?
Isn't it Ben Franklin that has a phrase that says haste makes waste? I think that's what we're looking at right now. I understand we have to get the procedure in there, but I think we have a more important problem is we have to set priorities and create a charter and documentation that will substantiate that the council and the city manager will address and take care of the residents as you were elected to. We've had a lot of problems, a lot of controversies in the last 6 years. We need to stop it. We need to bring this city back together. There is hatred in every department. Are you aware right now, the baseball diamond over there at the high school, the reason it was 10 months late, Hennessy gave the contractor an abandoned pipe to tie into. Has anybody here stood up to the plate and admitted it was city's fault, the delay of the baseball diamond? We need to have some integrity and some effort put in to bring this community back together. And if we just continue to ramrod, we're never going to do it. So I think you should table this at least till maybe September, set some priorities, then start the process. By the time that happens, you'll have a new council, and maybe we'll be on the happy trails.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, Lauren Anthony again. I'm going to kind of go against the grain here and say that I do disagree with the idea that we absolutely must wait for the next council in order to hire a new city manager, just because our current city manager resigned now. He's done it now. This is the council we have now. Now is when we're going to try and replace them. I don't think it really makes sense to deliberately wait 5 months. However, I think I do agree most with Zach's perspective, where he said that, let's move forward with just posting things. Let's see where things go. I totally agree with what everybody has said about rushing. I don't think we should rush into it. I don't think having a set timeline of saying we should have it done by this point should be done. And who knows, maybe it will take so long that it ends up being the next council that picks it. But I do think that we need to take that time to be able to get a good qualified candidate that we think is going to do a good job for a city, more than just trying to speed into filling it as soon as possible or waiting until the next city council because they're the ones that'll be mostly dealing with them. I understand the thought behind it. I just personally disagree with it just because it's so far away. It's not like it's 3 weeks away or something like that. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Further comments? Okay, why don't you take a roll call, Mr. Smith?
Councilmember Squires.
Aye.
Councilmember Lynch.
Aye.
Councilmember Witt.
Aye.
Councilmember Earl.
Aye.
Councilmember Karafotis.
Nay.
Councilmember Dold.
Nay.
Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Motion passes 5-2. Okay, item 8 is the labor attorney representation. Mr. Miller.
Yes, good evening again. This is before you. We were notified a while ago about the representation of a personnel attorney for the city, that he was switching to a different company, leaving Coates and Sangster, and going to Butzel Long. There were some options that we were given. One is that we would have to seek our own. And then also some of it was regarding the personnel files that he has and the cases that he's represented. All of that is in their custody. And we had to get authorization if we're going to either get those files back or if we're going to forward those to the new company that he is working with. And so I made a recommendation that we would continue with Matthew Derby as our attorney at his new law office, which is at Butzel Long. He has represented us for a number of years, providing a lot of good information, a lot of good representation on behalf of the city council, in essence, giving that direction also regarding personnel matters. Also, he is at Butzel Long providing the services to us. I did speak with him regarding the transfer, and he will still, of course, be able to we'll be able to reach him at any time for anything, any matter that's before us. Of course, I was telling him about the city manager selection process, about contracts. Of course, he'd be involved in all of that with our best interests at heart, of course. So I wanted to make the recommendation that we continue with Matthew S. Derby, but at Butzel Long. Also in the motion, I would like to have that his hourly rate is $250. I did not have that when I was writing this up. And so our current rate that we've been charged was $220 an hour before. As you know, everything goes up. And we are, of course, needing this representation. We were notified a couple months ago, so this kind of cleanup I've been working on since I took over. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilmember Witt.
I make a motion to approve retaining Matthew S. Derby, attorney at law at Butzel Long Law Firm, and transfer of all personnel files to Butzel Long, and to include an hourly rate of $250.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Further discussion from the table.
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
we knew about this a couple months ago, you said?
Yes.
Is he already at the new place?
He's there. At this moment, we do not have representation.
How does that happen? Okay, that's all I have.
Further discussion from the public. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Other business. We heard a couple of presentations earlier on the waste contract. Is it council's wish to move forward, take more time? We heard their presentations. What's council's wish?
Mayor,
Councilmember Earl.
I'm not ready to make a decision on it. We just got some information. I did note, somebody asked me why Waste Management wasn't included. They did send a letter saying they did not wish to bid on this, so that's why they're not included. These were the two lowest bidders. I get that, but I need to look at more information before I can make a decision.
That's fine.
Mayor,
Councilmember Karafotis.
also, one company gave us the bid about people choosing whether or not to recycle, and Waste Management, GFL didn't even get a chance to bid that, so that wasn't even included in there. So maybe we should get that from them also.
Okay. I don't know if we can go back on their,
They said they would do it.
In the presentation, they did say that they would be able to provide the service, but then work it out individually with the homeowner if we removed recycling. Is that what I understood?
The other company is the one that can work it out. GFL said they weren't aware that that was part of the bid, and they didn't bid on it.
I believe Titan said that they would do it through the city.
Yes.
Right, but individually.
Homeowner.
Right.
Which means that the city would have to pay for it, and then we'd have to figure out how to get the money back from the
Right, but I'm saying we should have equal bids. GFL should bid the same thing, so we have an opinion of.
Well, Titan shouldn't have bid that one. I mean, in all honesty, it should have been the bid that was put out, but
Well, because they did include that, is it okay to go back and ask
You can
GFL to
ask.
give us that
but if
information?
they don't do it, then we can't include it in the other.
No, I understand
Right.
that, yeah, but I think they did indicate they were willing to give us some numbers, so
Yeah.
I would prefer to wait
I don't
also.
have a problem.
I agree.
okay. Then we'll put that off for, I know the contract's up June 30th, so we do have a little bit of time, but not a lot. So we'll put that off. Item 13, public comment for non-agenda items only. You'll have 3 minutes. It's not a question and answer. Anybody wishing to speak? Mr. Jones.
Yeah,
About it.
on behalf of the Commission on Aging, I'd like to point out a few activities that are coming up at the Garden City Senior Center is sponsoring a board game day every Tuesday. The next one is May 28th. Join us at the Radcliffe Center for a day of board games, card games, tennis, pool, cornhole, and more. If you have any questions, you can call the Maplewood Center at 734-793-1870. Also, the Garden City Senior Center sponsors a penny bingo on the first and fourth Wednesday of every month. And so there's one coming up on the fourth Wednesday of this month at the Radcliffe Center from 1 to 2. 25 cents per bingo card. Bring lots of pennies because pennies are used as bingo markers. There's a Cornwall Turkeyville lunch theater on Tuesday, June 4th from 9 to 6, where they'll be presenting Rogers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma. There's a $55 charge for that. And the Sewing Club for Seniors. Machines are available on a first-come, first-served basis. The next one is on the fourth Tuesday. They also come on the second Tuesday of every month from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock of a $1 drop-in charge at the Radcliffe Center. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments?
Could you guys just make Brian come up and make us all laugh, because he's the funny man?
Brian, I think, lost his voice. Any further comments? Okay, Acting City Manager Miller.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Nothing? Mr. Smith.
Nothing this evening.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole.
A couple things I wanted to mention. First off, to Opal, the reason why the Ethics Committee was suggested were just for those reasons. You had issues in the past, and they weren't handled appropriately, apparently. I wasn't involved in them, so I can't speak to that, but hopefully this will help that, and there is a resource now for people to come to if you feel that any of us or anybody on appointed committees, are doing something unethical. If you want to see the ordinance, I'd be happy to share it with you. I wanted to ask about our interim city manager. So recently, you became the DDA director.
Yes.
You're overseeing the building department and something else. I'm tired.
Planning.
And the planning,
Yes.
Planning department. So now we have asked you, and you have very kindly consented to be our interim city manager. So I would just like to get some information as to how your compensation's being split up now, with the understanding that money from the DDA does have to stay in the DDA. I don't want to have any problems with the state. So, however you've got that figured out, if you could let me know.
Okay.
And I think that might be it. Oh, Miss Anthony, you came up and you were talking about Radcliffe. There's been a lot of talk about Radcliffe. I have emails going back to the beginning of October last year where we've asked for a budget for Radcliffe. And I'm hoping that what Mr. Councilmember Earl suggested earlier, that we do an audit over there. All this stuff, we have to move fast because this is grant money, and grant money normally has deadlines, and these do too. So, but I would like to see an audit done over there, exactly how much money has been spent, how much money do we really have left, and I'd also like to see the reimbursements start coming in from the county. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lynch. Nothing. Councilmember Witt.
I just want to give a kudos out to the Parks and Rec Department as well as the Communications Department helping out at Radcliffe. They did a wonderful job presenting. As I was walking through, I had a bunch of residents saying they enjoyed how the building was looking. They look forward to the future of how it's coming along. Especially Zach, you put a lot of time and effort into that, I know, and your team capturing the memories of that event alone. So thank you. But that's all that I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Squires.
Okay, just a couple things. Congratulations and welcome to our newest officer, Nicholas Wallace. We're happy to have you. Also, the American Legion Auxiliary, Unit 396, will have poppies available Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, May 23rd, 24th, and 25th, from noon to 6 p.m. in the parking lot of the American Legion Post at 6860 Middle Belt here in Garden City. Your donation will benefit veterans and their families. This year you can take a poppy with you, or if you choose, you can dedicate a laminated poppy in memory of a loved one that will be placed in the memorial garden on site in front of the mural at the post. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Karafotis.
I just have a couple things. One, I wanted to say welcome to our new Parks and Rec director. She started, and I'm looking forward to all the things and all the new ideas that she has. I also want to say thanks to Matt Miller for taking on the interim position with the city managers. I also had some questions about that. I know that we appointed him that, but did we put a timeline on it? Something that we say for the next 12 weeks, and then if we need to renew it, we can. How did we talk about pay, what his position is going to be doing? Are the other jobs on hold? Is that something we need to discuss in a closed session? Or, I mean, how are all those things decided? And who's deciding them?
The compensation, I believe, was agreed upon with you and the former city manager. As far as the other jobs, Mr. Miller, when he took the job, said he could handle it. So he does have an assistant, basically, John Prosh with DDA. He's already been doing multiple jobs with the building department. So that's,
The reason I'm asking is because that's a big hat to wear. Community development, building department, DDA, city manager. I mean, city manager is a lot of stuff. So, and you say that it was agreed upon with our previous city manager. We decide the city manager stuff, the city manager's salary and stuff, not someone else. So like I said, how did all those, and benefits compared to the benefits for city manager and his benefits he already gets? I just wondered, like, where's that talk happening? I don't know we're allowed to talk about it here, but.
He was able to, I was following his direction, but we were able to work on a salary that he felt he could set because he was the city manager at the time to fill it out.
The city manager doesn't set the salary for the city manager. We do.
Yeah.
I
I'm not saying anything wrong with the matter.
Yeah.
For you to do your job, I'd gladly pay $1 million, because
don't-
I think you're great. I'm just asking how that process happened.
I was just told they agreed to it, and that would be probably a question that we can set that up in closed session.
It may or may not be a permissible matter to take to closed session. Closed session, the permissible reasons for a closed session are set forth in the Open Meetings Act. They're very specific, and they are to be construed very narrowly. So unless there's something that obviously fits within the exceptions to the Open Meetings Act, I would suggest that the council
Okay. then
make the determination in
I'll
open
ask
meeting.
for, at next meeting, that you have whatever you and previous city manager had agreed to. I was under the impression that it was allowed, so we'll have him bring it forward at the next council meeting.
I was just curious. I don't think anything inappropriate, but I just want to know. As part of the
Alright.
council, that's our job.
We'll discuss at the next city meeting, at the next council meeting then.
Okay, and the only other thing I want to say is I'm glad that we got a lot of stuff out in the air about Radcliffe, and I agree with Councilman Earl. We need an audit. At the last meeting, I made a motion to stop all spending, and it didn't pass, but we talked about things that needed to be in that motion, maybe taking the motion and expanding it and saying all spending stops at Radcliffe except for the Imagination Station and the kitchen, because that's right in the middle of going forward. So I think that's a good idea. So if I could make that motion to stop spending at Radcliffe except for the teaching kitchen and also the Imagination Station, which I know that the project manager and our treasurer are already working on a budget and have actually a pretty good budget going for what we're going to spend moving forward. Because right now, we don't even know what we spent last month, because that budget didn't include the stuff that's coming up for June.
As a caveat with the last meeting, just make sure it says capital improvement projects, not stop all spending, if you're going to make the motion, because I do not want to cut our employees' salaries off at the building.
Right, we said we weren't, correct.
Okay, that's all I want to make sure.
Spending
Okay.
doesn't include payroll. I'm not talking about
Spending
payroll.
inside a building does, yes.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So
I'm
capital
excluding payroll.
improvement
Yes.
spending.
Hold on, one at a time, please.
We were talking about grant money, and that doesn't stand bills, not salaries.
All right. We need a microphone if we're going to talk.
No, but they're doing it.
So the motion, your motion is,
I'm not asking to stop the work on the Imagination Station and the teaching kitchen. Those are the two things that are going to continue. I'm talking about anything else. 99% of the building is done. Let's just figure out where we're at. We need to get the Imagination Station done. It's a right mid-thing, and so is and like I said, they've already been working on a budget, which we haven't even had this whole time, so we have no idea what we were going to spend, but now they're getting there. I'm not talking about payroll or stopping work on those two things.
If we have outstanding invoices owed, though, we're required to pay them.
I totally agree with that. I'm talking about moving forward, not who's going to bill you for this month, because we know that work's been done already.
I believe her motion is to continue moving on with the two rooms that are being built out now, the Imagination Station and the teaching kitchen. Continue on with those until we get a budget to move forward with any other spending at Radcliffe. Is that
Yes.
Capital improvement spending at Radcliffe.
right?
Capital improvement spendings at Radcliffe not to include payroll or current invoices that are due.
If I may, can I read that back to make sure we're all in agreement?
Please.
So we have a motion to pause all capital improvement spending outside of the Imagination Station and Teaching Kitchen and payroll and current outstanding invoices until council receives a budget for Radcliffe spending.
Correct.
Okay?
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Further discussion from the table on that? From the public?
Motion needs, I didn't hear anybody support that motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Dole did.
Thank you. I have the motion reread.
So this is a motion to pause all capital improvement spending outside of the Imagination Station and Teaching Kitchen and payroll and current outstanding invoices until City Council receives a budget for Radcliffe spending.
Okay. Further discussion from the table?
I guess what I'm asking,
From the public?
I'm
Go
from
ahead
the
now.
public.
Yep.
remember?
Oh, we talk first, and then you can,
Well, I thought you
No.
already asked the table. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
You just asked for the public.
All right. I said go.
It's getting late, you know that?
I know it's way past some of our bedtimes, but go ahead.
Someone saying this was gonna end at 8.
My question right now is, are we trying to curtail what's going on at Radcliffe, or are there other expenditures we're looking at? Because Stacy, I agree with you, we need to take a step back. And where the concern I'm having right now is, everybody's telling me how with grants, all this money's got to be put in these boxes, blah, blah, blah. Why isn't there, Radcliffe, the roof has to be number one priority. Where was the errors made, and what corrective measures are you going to establish so it doesn't happen again? I love your motion, but we have a bigger problem of a lack of priorities being set, and we need to make these corrective actions. And maybe we got a chance now since we got rid of the city manager.
Thank you.
Mayor, regarding that, something that you and I both agree on that's been brought up before is next time that we have a project like this, that we actually have a project manager.
Yep.
And that's going to be one of the things that we improve upon greatly.
Yep. Okay, further comments from the public? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I got.
Councilmember Earl.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Nicholas Wallace. Thank you for stepping up to serve the community. Be safe. And then I want to address the bridge. Somebody said earlier today, all roads lead to Wayne County except for Merriman Road. Right now, Merriman Road does not lead to Wayne County. I want to thank Commissioner Kniezek. He has been fighting to make sure Garden City is included. The mayor has been working to make sure Garden City is included in these talks. Wayne County did not want to include us until they forced him to do it. And what they need to realize is we have businesses right at Warren and Merriman that are greatly affected by this. Westland has businesses on the other side that are greatly affected by this. The mayor said today he actually followed a business from Westland that had to go, you're basically going 2 miles out of your way to deliver food over here. It's ridiculous. Obviously, somebody made a mistake and they won't get called to the carpet for it. It's Wayne County way. And then you had asked about Wayne County finances. I don't have enough time for that, for what they did to us. So it's too criminal. I don't have enough time for it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple things. One was the Senior Alliance dinner that Commissioner Kniezek put on for all the seniors. There was about 400 and some odd seniors there from 3 different communities. It was a great event. A couple hundred gift cards given away to the seniors, and they greatly appreciated it, and it was a good time. The Radcliffe grand opening, thank you to all that showed up. There were probably, I don't know, a couple hundred people maybe there, but everybody loved what was going on at Radcliffe. Those that haven't gone in there, please go see it. It is very nice. Memorial Day, Monday, the 27th, 11 a.m., we will have our ceremony on the front lawn here at City Hall. If you can make it, show support for the veterans, please do. My mayor's forum has been moved to June 12th due to a scheduling conflict, so that will be June 12th at 7 p.m. Congratulations to our newest officer. It's good to see I knew his dad when he was a police officer here, so it's good that the youth keep coming back and they keep getting younger. With that, again, I do want to congratulate Doc again and wish him good luck in his new adventures. So, having said that, this meeting is adjourned.